All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. All right, share this out, share this out, share this out. It's Friday night, unless you're on the other side of the Prime Meridian. Then it is Saturday already for you. Welcome. It is the Law of One. Let me turn off this overlay right here so you guys can see my face. Let me turn this off. Pull myself up into full screen. Share this out, share this out, share this out. There we go. Okay. All right, share this out. Get everybody in here. Tag them. Figure out where they are. What the hell's going on, right? Where's everybody? It's Friday night. Denise, welcome. I see you said hello over there on YouTube and on Facebook. So, yeah, get everybody in here. Figure out where they are. All right, tag them. Tag them and bag them. Denise, get them in here. Right? Welcome. It's Friday. It's 3 p.m. West Coast American time. So you guys can figure that out. GMT -8, I think. There's Cassie. Welcome. Right. Share this out. Right. Yeah, there you go. Tag everybody. Get them in here. Sorry, I got food in my teeth. I was eating and I ate a piece of a biscuit. It actually was a piece of chocolate covered wafer that I got. I was having one of those. It was good. It was good. It's actually Australian. Tim Tam from Australia. Yummy, 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 yummy. Okay, so it's Friday night. It's the Law of One. Paulie, welcome. Anybody that I didn't say hello to, it's because you guys are in the chat and I only see numbers, so I don't know who all's here unless you say something in the chat. Right? Yeah, get the rest of them in here too. Cassie, get them in here. Get Jamie in here. Get Mel in here. Get Sarah in here. Tag them and bag them. Get them in here. Okay. So we're on session 77. 77. I almost forgot where we were. I don't remember if we started session 77. I know that we finished 76. I didn't have time. I was running crazy today trying to get everything ready, and I was editing the next few sessions of the Law of One, at least two. I got two more because I wasn't sure if we were going to get through. Risen Nation, welcome. Wasn't sure if we were going to get through the session today, so I figured I better have a couple more ready to go just in case, at least one. So I was doing that, but the day's been a little crazy. The week's been a little crazy. My internet's acting bizarre today. I don't know if you guys are having any problems. I was on Facebook on my phone, on Messenger, on my phone, and I got messages from like Stephanie who said she tried to share two pictures or a picture with me, and she said I was with those people last night and I got to debate them about politics. And I couldn't see it. But when I got on my laptop, it was there. It was fine. Then I was talking to Brooke, and she went to send me something, and it said that she sent me an image, but I couldn't see what it was. And she, I guess, sent me I think it was Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven link, and I couldn't see it. And I was like, what is going on with my phone? So I turned my phone off, turned it back on, and then it was fine. So I don't know what was going on, but I had to reset my phone. But it was acting weird, right? So not sure what's going on there, right? Get Tina in here too. I know Tina does. Thank you, Denise. I know that Tina does her own psychic thing at this time on Friday or in like an hour from now. So I know that she can't stay long because she goes live and starts doing readings for people. Just so happened that, people start doing things on a Friday. I've been doing this show on Friday for 7 years, but, and then the time slot. People come and go. They pop into the time slot and do something, and then they're gone. And then, you know what I mean? It just happens. Okay. So, pardon me while I'm snorting my my phlegm there because I have allergy issues even this time of year. It's raining over here, cold in the United States, cold in the North American continent, freezing, as a matter of fact. Yesterday and today were the first 2 days that we've had above zero at night. In over here in California, and I'm in the valley, right in the center of California, right there in Sacramento area, the capital of the state of California, and it's been below freezing every night now for a while, since like January, for like the first week of January. So we actually hit 40 degrees. That was the coldest that we hit last night and the night before. So we're happy with that. But we've been having rain. We didn't have any rain in January, and it was freezing. And then now we're having rain and snow all over the mountains. Not snow here because I'm down at 38 feet above sea level. So no snow here, but it does snow down here sometimes, but rarely. So, okay. Right? Yeah, Cassie's tagging everybody now. Right? Thank you, Cassie. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so let's just do a sound check and we'll get started here on the Law of One. Like I said, we're on session 77, right? So I'm going to go ahead and press play. You guys let me know if you can hear it okay, and I'll adjust the sound. I'll turn it up a little bit and see if it's loud enough for everybody as I move my coffee slightly away from my keyboard so that I don't end up spilling my coffee on my keyboard. Okay, here we go.
February 10th, 1982. 77.0 Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 77.1 Questioner, could you first please give me an indication of the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. 77.2 Questioner, was the instrument under attack just prior to this session? Ra, I am Ra.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty sure you guys can hear it. Okay. Hopefully you can hear it. If you can't hear it, let me know. Tina, welcome. Yeah. And I forgot to say happy Valentine's Day, right? Here in the United States, it's still Valentine's Day. For those of you on the other side of the prime meridian, that was yesterday for you. But here in the rest of the West, as it were, everybody east of India, right? East of Pakistan, east of the Middle East, we're still on Friday. Right, I think over in Jerusalem and those people, I think they're still on. I think they're still on Friday today. Now they're not on Saturday, but everybody else is on Saturday, right? So we're catching up. Okay, so yeah, I'm hoping you guys can hear that. Okay, let me know if you can't. Otherwise, you just hear dead air when I'm pressing play here, because everybody's trying to tag everybody. I get that. That's cool. Don't worry about that. But let's go ahead and let Raw answer the question about whether or not Carla was coming under attack in the last session.
This is correct. 77.3 Questioner, is there anything that we could do to help protect the instrument from these attacks prior to the session? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 77.4 Questioner, what could we do? Ra, I am Ra. Your group could refrain from continuing this contact. 77.5 Questioner, is that the only thing we could do? Ra, I am Ra. That is the only thing you could do which you are not already attempting with a whole heart. 77.6 Questioner, I have 3 questions that the instrument asked me to ask that I'll get out of the way first. She wants to know if the preparation for her hospital experience could be improved for the next experience. Ra, I am Ra. All was done well with one exception. The instrument was instructed to spend space/time contemplating itself as the creator. This, done in a more determined fashion, would be beneficial at times when the mind complex is weakened by severe assaults upon the distortions of the body complex towards pain. There is no necessity for negative thought forms regardless of pain distortions. The elimination of such creates the lack of possibility for negative elementals and other negative entities to use these thought forms to create the worsening of the mind complex deviation from the normal distortions of cheerfulness/anxiety. 77.7 Questioner, the instrument would also like to know if the what we call tuning could be improved during times when we do not communicate with RA, for that communication. Ra, I am Ra. That which has been stated in regard to the latter question will suffice to point the way for the present query. 77.8 Questioner.
Right, so Ra, or Dawn at this point is asking Ra about what can they do to tune like the chakras or themselves, or Carla specifically, to be able to channel, Cody, welcome, to be able to channel Ra better, to tune that radio frequency, that mental psychic frequency in her head, tuning it, because it is like a old style radio. If you guys have an AM FM radio or something in your vehicle still, or you're old enough to remember that, because most everybody is digital now and you're on your phone, so you just hit iHeartRadio and the app opens up and you're tuned into it and all the songs on it. But there's still radio that's being broadcast. It used to be television, used to be broadcast the same way as well, to where you had to tune it in. You had to actually turn a tuner or move an antenna to tune it in. I'm young enough to remember, or old enough to remember, doing that. Moving an antenna, the rabbit ears on a television. We had a big antenna that my father and I put up on a tower, and he would turn this knob, and the antenna would move outside on a motor that we installed. So the antenna would move, so that he would go and program things on the dial to where he knew that it was certain frequencies to watch or listen to or watch television And so he'd move in a certain direction and face it a certain direction so that we could tune in channels. So your frequencies in your mind, so, for your empathic abilities, for your psychic abilities, whatever they are, whatever, clairvoyance that you have, or whatever voyance you have, you have to tune it in. You have to be able to recognize where that signal is in your mind, your spirit, and tune into that channel. Okay. And that's one of the things that people don't realize about, just channeling. That's why it's called channeling. That's why we called it that. Channeling. It's a channel. Okay. It's a station. It's a channel that is a certain frequency that somebody is broadcasting on. In this case, Ra, the hive mind complex, is Chandra. Welcome. Chandra, welcome. I forgot to say hello. Jamie, welcome. Yeah, if you guys don't say anything in the chat, I just see numbers. I don't know who's here. So if you guys say hello in the chat, I can see you guys and go hi. Otherwise, I just see numbers coming in and out of the live. Okay, so hi to you guys. And if I missed anybody, I apologize. If somebody came in and said something in that. Reese, see, there's Reese. I just happened to look up and there was Reese. Welcome, Reese. Namaste. Okay, so everything that you do, whether it's casting a spell, whether it's writing a spell, whether it's Reiki, whether it's channeling, whether it's doing divination of some kind with the cards, or doing tarot cards, or you're using a pendulum, or you're using any tools, you have to tune into that. You have to tune into the tool. You have to tune into the frequency of or vibration of a device, an item, or a person, or an object, or a communication. So people who have psychic abilities, they don't realize that they tuned into that, and they can tune into it whenever they want. But then when they try to add an ability, sometimes people are just naturally gifted at it, and they'll be able to just do it. Other people say, I'm having a hard time doing it. And that's when we use that vernacular, at least myself and the people that I've worked with, when we've been training people for the last, well, at least on Facebook, we've been training people for the last 10 years off of Facebook. And prior to that, I've been doing it with friends of mine and family members for, 30, 35 years. So we teach you that using that vernacular of tuning in a channel. So you got to tune into something. You have to find the channel and tune into it. And it's not hard to find. That's probably the hardest part, though, because it's easier to tune into it once you understand what you're looking for. And your guides help you with that. They'll help you with that. And that's why we get you in touch with your guides. We'll guide you down here to look for that there. And then those people can also help you if you're going to work with someone. They can help you tune in. It's like when people are actually channeling someone that is somewhere else, like that guy that channels Bashar, and I think that's how you say it, Bashar. He had to make contact with Bashar and then establish that contact, tune in to that contact, and then you can do that. So we teach you by doing that, by looking for your higher self, looking for your guides to help guide you. Once you learn how to do that, tune into my guides, tune into my higher self. So we teach you through meditation to move yourself into that witnesser position and realize that I'm not the pain body, I'm not the thinking mind, I'm not the ego, that I am the experiencer, the co-creator here. And once you start to stop saying he or she as your higher self and start saying me, that's the first step of actually moving into that place. Instead of referring to your ego as it or he or she or they, and realize that is you. It is part of you, but it's not, so the voice is you, the thinking is you, the conscience is you, but it's not a separate you. It's a piece of you that's an echo that is supposed to be there to give you this balance and choice as to whether you're in service to self, left side, devil on your left shoulder, or in service to others, right side, angel on the other shoulder, your conscience. So then your job is to move up away from that to the higher self. And it's easier to teach people to move to guides first and then have the guides help you. So we get you meditate. If you can, and you're one of those people that can do that, we'll meditate and introduce you to your higher self, have you introduce you to yourself. And once you do that, eventually you get away from saying he or she, depending on if you're a man or a woman, and start saying me, right? So at first you're like I would be, for instance, use me as for instance. I would be when you first do that. He is doing this. He is doing that, and you're referring to yourself as a third person that you're separate, and that's what stops you from being able to tune into your higher self. You have to stop referring to your higher self as something separate from you. It's only separated by the veil. Okay, that's the only thing that's separating you from your higher self is the veiling. So moving towards the higher self and the expansion of your consciousness starts piercing that veil so you can start seeing past it and through it. Once you start realizing your higher self is there, that starts to break the veil down. You're supposed to, at that point, realize that is me. That's who I actually am. I'm not this. I am that. So that's why God said to Moses, if you're Hebrew or Christian or Muslim, God said to Moses, when Moses said, what do I tell you? Who do I tell the people what is your name? Who sent me? He said, I am. I am that I am. Okay. So why is that? Because that is the consciousness. I am. So it's not he, my higher self. It's me. I am the higher self. Right. So the same thing goes for tuning. Right? You have to realize I am the higher self and I am making contact with this other being, in the case of Carla, with Ra. So they're asking, what can we do down here to tune her into it? And Ra's statement is sort of slightly cryptic here, but not. So this is why I stopped right here in the middle of that answer to give you this entire spiel right here so that you would understand that some of you instinctively know this and you do this, but others, it takes time for you to figure that out and stop referring to yourself as he or she, but me, I, we, I, me, as a single person, because that is you. Okay, that is you. That's who you actually are. This is not who you actually are. You're just veiled, so you don't understand who you actually are. So opening the third eye, you can open the third eye and still look around and not realize yourself as the higher self because you haven't looked up and realized that who's looking back at you is you. That's what's happening, right? And so you have to realize that. Once you realize that, it becomes easier to tune into things. But it takes a little bit of getting used to, because as you expand your consciousness, then you start residing in that place. And then you have to get used to the idea that you're actually in two places at once. And some people are like, wow, I'm having a hard time focusing because I'm out of body all the time. And that's actually okay. You're supposed to do that. What you're supposed to do is start to realize that you can actually be in both of those places at once and be here, because what you're doing in the beginning is you're doing meditation. And you're in the meditation, you're achieving that place, but you're doing it with your eyes closed and in very quiet, close proximity with the whole world not bombarding you. You're supposed to be trying to get into that place all the time so that you reside there. When you first start doing it with your eyes open and walking around and hearing things and communicating with people, it feels strange because you feel half out of body. And so your instinct is to try and ground, because everybody tells you to ground, center, and focus all the time. So you think that grounding, centering, and focusing means pulling my consciousness into this body, when it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't mean that. Grounding, focusing, and calming yourself and is balancing yourself is balancing yourself. But it doesn't mean pulling your consciousness into the matrix. Okay? It doesn't mean that. It means your physical body in this place, balancing those chakras so that you're tuned up properly, so that you can communicate with your higher self freely and anyone else freely. So grounding yourself doesn't mean being in your body and stuck in your body and not being out of body. And that's the biggest mistake that people make in their ascension, is that they start thinking to themselves, I have to be fully present in this place only. And that's not true. You can be fully, and I'll tell you this because this is what I do and many other people do across the world. Currently, while I'm talking to you right now, I am out of body and I am up there. I am in my higher self, residing in that higher self, and I'm also down here at the exact same time. Okay. And when you start having that feeling, it's foreign at first because you're expanded so much that you feel more of the universe, you feel more of nature at the same time. So it almost feels like you're spaced out. And we use that term, spaced out. I feel all spaced out. I don't feel like I'm in my body. That's because you are in your body. You actually are in your body, but you're in your spirit body. You're not in the physical body. And you're realizing that down here, but you can operate here and there at the same time. That takes a little bit of getting used to. That's actually kind of one of the next levels of the hardest things. First, surrendering to the universe and what's going on in the universe is really the hardest part. And then allowing yourself to have the downloads and allowing yourself to be patient enough for that to happen. And then the expansion of your consciousness when you literally start feeling that you're not fully in the body. And there is a difference between being out of body, leaving the body completely and out running around, and being in both at the same time, being anchored in here, conscious here, aware here, and also there. So there is a difference in slipping out and being out of body and not actually knowing what's going on here. And that happens when you channel. So when you channel, you do slip out a little bit more. And so sometimes you don't remember. I do that when I'm doing the show. I'll go back and listen to myself or watch myself and go, I don't even remember saying that. I don't remember saying that at all. I talked about that on Wednesday. So that part is when you're out. And then the other part is when you're residing in both. Okay. And it takes a little bit of fine tuning. But once you learn that, it's a lot easier to do everything else because that's where you want to stay. Right. Yeah. And like Cassie said, we are multidimensional beings. Absolutely. So it's very possible. Let me put that up on the screen. It's very possible for you to do that. You just have to get used to it. Right. You just have to get used to the feeling because the feeling feels very large and expanded. And so it almost feels like you're not able to concentrate fully because you're not concentrated in the matrix. So that part it takes a little bit of getting used to of your mind feeling like it's in more than one place at a time because you're really expanded now up to 6D, and you're actually residing now in your higher self, seeing this place through these eyes. But your third eye is now focused from there, not here looking up or looking around. Your third eye is now there looking down at the same time as you're here looking around. So that takes a little bit longer to get used to than most, because it almost feels like you're like, wow, this is weird. And, it's like if you've ever done drugs or you've ever been drunk or high or something, you're actually achieving that, especially with DMT, ayahuasca, psilocybin, or THC in large levels. You're actually doing that there. And so if you've ever done that, you're a little bit more used to it, but it's still kind of, you're like, wow, this is weird. But people who have done that, and then they have this without any medication or drugs, then they go, wow, that's crazy that I'm feeling this. And normally it takes me to be intoxicated in some way by a foreign drug. Well, that's what's happening now here on Earth is that people are achieving that. Whereas the time 40 years ago, 60 years ago, people could not achieve that through just meditation. People were seriously having issues on this earth because of how locked they were into the matrix. So doing the drugs were opening those doors. That's why the band, The Doors, called themselves that, by the way, had to do with opening the doors of the mind. So doing psychedelics allowed them 60 years ago to achieve that. But now 60 years hence, we're able to do that without. So some people still choose to do that. There's nothing wrong with it, right? I still smoke pot, right? I like a THC level that's over 100, 105 parts per million instead of that piddly 50 stuff that they try to sell you in the stores. That they're doing that because they want you to have a little bit on board. They're trying to sell it to you like a cigarette or a drug. They're trying to get you hooked on it to where you're just going to keep buying it and you never get anything out of it. You smoke it, you get kind of high and just takes the edge off and you feel better about yourself. You have that euphoric effect from the THC and that's it. But you don't actually raise your vibration, right? So anybody that gives me that stuff that's only like 50 parts per million, I'm like, I got to smoke a bunch of this to get this up to 75, 80 parts per million or above. But it's somebody, they call that indica. Oh, you're into couch, man. I want that stuff because that stuff, if you don't get it too high, right, you take, a hit or two and you get that THC at about 104, 105, and then you don't keep smoking. You keep smoking and it goes up to 110 parts per million, 120 parts per million. And then you're just like, and you're fried. You know what I mean? So you have to find out where your limit is to do that. And you'll learn because if you are in the couch and you're just sitting there going, oh, man, I'm tripping. You just start staring at something, playing a video game. You don't move for an hour. That's one thing. Okay, Stephanie, welcome. Did I say hi to Jamie? I did. Okay, so this is where Raw is being asked about what Carla can do to tune things. And I think he mentions here, because I know he does it in a couple places, because she does mushrooms. And some of the times the mushrooms hinders her channeling Raw. We'll see what Raw answers with here. Let me go ahead and start it.
Finally, she wishes to know why several days ago her heart rate went up to 115 per minute and then she had extreme pain in her stomach. Was that an Orion greeting? It says, Ra, I am Ra. Although this experience was energized by the Orion group, the events mentioned, as well as others more serious, were proximally caused by the ingestion of certain foodstuffs in what you call your tablet form. 77.9 Questioner, can you tell me what these tablets were, specifically? Ra, I am Ra. We examine this query for the law of confusion and find ourselves close to the boundary, but acceptably so. The substance which caused the bodily reaction of the heartbeat was called pituitone by those which manufacture it. That which caused the difficulty which seemed to be cramping of the lower abdominal musculature but was, in fact, more organic in nature was a substance called spleentone.
Right, as Stephanie said, I can't do THC. No matter the strand or the dose, the method or anything, it's no bueno for me. Yeah, my mother's the same way. My mother, if she eats it, she gets sick. If she smokes it, she gets sick. So she got high and she threw up. So she couldn't do it. She's allergic to it in that respect. Some people like my ex-wife's mother, she can eat it. She's part native. She's got a lot of native in her. She can eat it and smoke it, and it doesn't affect her. She doesn't get high. So they've made cookies and brownies just full of THC, high levels of THC. And my ex-wife told me she ate 2 brownies herself, and she was floating. She was high. Her mom's eating 4, 5, 6 brownies. I don't know what you're talking about. This stuff don't feel any different. So she's immune apparently to THC. She must be high all the time or something, because THC doesn't seem to affect her. The other half of it, the DMT part, gives her the euphoric effect to where she feels better and doesn't feel her arthritis and stuff like that. So that part works for her, but the THC doesn't do anything for her, no matter what the amount of THC that she ingests or smokes. But some people get sick or whatever, right, from it, or it doesn't, it just makes them feel bad, right? So Stephanie said I did okay with weed as a teen, but as I got older, my body chemistry just doesn't like it. Your body chemistry changes every 7 years. It completely changes over the course of time. So something that you hated as a kid, 15, 20 years later, you might love to eat it. I for one, never liked chocolate, dark chocolate or otherwise. I liked white chocolate, but I didn't like milk chocolate. I didn't like dark chocolate. Now I'm okay with it. But when I was a kid, I couldn't stand the taste of it. I used to not like fish. Did not like the smell or the taste of fish. It tasted like it smelled to me, and it was disgusting to me. By the time I was 40, I craved it. I still love fish now. I'll even eat sushi, right? But when I was a teenager, couldn't get me near fish. Wouldn't touch it. I would just be like, nope, sorry, not having it. But now I love it, and I don't know exactly what changed. I do know that I started taking fish oil, and when you take fish oil, sometimes you burp it up and you taste it. I don't know if that, like when you take honey, it gets you over like the allergies to something. Like if you have allergies in an area that you just moved to, go and find a beekeeper that keeps bees from the area that you're living in, and get some honey from that beekeeper and eat the honey, and you will no longer have allergies in the area that you're in, because you will have small doses of that in the honey, and it'll get you over, like a vaccine, it'll get you over those allergies. That's actually, you can look that up. That's a real thing. So I think the same thing applies to everything, including spirituality. So I think the same thing applies in the case of tuning into things and possibly people with drugs as well. I know that we're, as a human, we have a tolerance factors that we, because of how well we're put together, we start tolerating things. The more we put it in our system, the less it affects us. So if you smoke pot every day and you smoke a lot of it, it's going to take a lot for you to get high. So that's why I was like, did she smoke a lot of pot when she was younger? Referring back to my mother-in-law now. But no. However, I don't know if it's the Native American in her or what, but she just does not have a problem with THC. So your body chemistry changes over time. You have to get used to it again and pay attention to it to see if things happen like that. Okay, let's get back to Carla. So Carla was taking a medication that was causing her to have some pain, which was causing the problem with being able to communicate with Ra. And that's where we are here. Let's continue.
This instrument has a physical body complex of complicated balances which afford it physical existence. Were the view taken that certain functions and chemicals found in the healthy, as you call...
Oh, what we're referring to, Denise said, THC doesn't bother me, laugh out loud. Well, let me ask you the question, Denise. Do you get high from THC? Right, it doesn't bother me either. I get high. Right, so it doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me ill. So are you one of those people, Denise, that if you smoke pot or eat pot brownies, you don't get high at all? It's possible because you're out. You guys are out there, right? So I don't know. Answer that question for me. She says, "What do you mean?" Right? THC doesn't bother me. Laugh out loud. So maybe it doesn't bother her at all, right? So Cassie's like, "How do you mean?" I was thinking the same thing. Do you mean you don't get high from it, or you don't get sick from it, right? So she says a little high. Okay, so you're one of those people that has a tolerance to it. So you would have to smoke more or ingest more at a higher rate to end up getting high. Yeah, some people have a tolerance to it. Are you Native, Denise? I've never asked you that. Do you have Native DNA, Native American DNA? I've never asked you that question, I don't think. Because I'm Native, but only 5%, but I have problems with like alcohol. I mean, I'm Irish, so we're all alcoholics. But corn whiskey, sour mash whiskey, American sour mash whiskey, I can't drink. I can, but I get violent. That's the only alcohol that I get violent on. I can drink potato whiskey. I can drink all the Irish whiskey, Scottish whiskey, Canadian whiskey, every other whiskey that's not made with corn. Any whiskey that's made with corn, I get violent. Any other whiskey that's made with anything else, I'm okay with. Rice whiskey, and fine. Corn whiskey, no bueno. No bueno for Leonardo. Yeah. Denise says, I'm not sure. So she's never really went after it. That's okay, Denise. If she never really went after it, I'd love to be there one time and go, eat this pot brownie and then wait. How do you feel? Eat this other pot brownie. How do you feel? Right? And then find out what your tolerance is. Just see if you actually do get high. You may not. It may not affect you. It may just be a mild, if anything at all. That's the way some people are. My ex-mother-in-law is that way. She would end up having to smoke, smoke pot that was like 105 parts per million of THC, and she would have to take several hits to get that upwards around 125 parts per million or more, which most people would be like in serious trouble at 125 to 130 parts per million of THC because they're used to this 50 parts per million. So that's like almost triple what their normal dose would be. And people like myself, and I know Cassie, because we've talked about it before, we're old school, right? We're old school, and that's what we used to smoke was THC that was 100 plus, right? So for us, we know what to expect, and we know how high you get, and we're both like, yeah, man, anybody that's around my age remembers that and goes, this stuff they give you nowadays is useless, man. It's like smoking crack. You take a hit, you almost get high, and that's it, right? So, yeah. Shelly said, interesting. Thank you. Yeah, you got to find out what your tolerance is if you do drugs. Hi, Shelly, by the way. I didn't even know you were here until you said that. So you have to find out what your tolerance to all of these drugs are if you're going to do them. But my point and Ra's point of all of this is that 60 years ago, so it would have been 20 years before Ra was channeling, because Ra was channeling in 1981, specifically for the session we're on. People were having a hard time meditating to get to that state of moving into your higher self and being high. That's why they call it high, by the way. You're high when you're doing drugs because it actually raises your vibration. So they were taking these drugs to get high, to get into that state. Whereas today, 60 years since the 60s, 40 years since Ra was talking about this, about Carla. We don't need to, most of the people alive today don't need the drugs to achieve that. They can be achieved now through meditation, because the DNA and the spirituality of the human race, the resonance of the Schumann resonance of the human race is now at a lot higher place. So the moving into 5D, and the realization of I am the immortal soul, I am the higher self, not my higher self, he, or in my case, and maybe Shelley in your case, she. When you're referring to your higher self as a third person, that's not you. When you move into that understanding, understanding, more importantly, understanding of I am the higher self, not he or she is talking to me, but I am the higher self. When you realize that and you move into that space, this is what we're talking about here. We can achieve that today without any kind of psychedelic, whereas 60 years ago, it was almost impossible for the average person to achieve that without it. Some people prefer it today still. Some people need it today still. But the majority of the people who are spiritual in this world now don't need it in that way, and they can move into that place. And I've been teaching that on Facebook for the last 10 years, but I've been teaching it for about 35 years now, how to achieve that without any kind of drug or medication. Okay, so Ra's talking about that now, and talking about the question, answering the question, because Carla was taking medication and it was making her upset, her stomach upset, and that was causing her to miss the channel and not be able to tune in properly to Ra. And they were trying to figure out how they can get her to tune in. Basically, even back then, Carla had a better channel when she wasn't taking drugs. They asked at one point, Dawn asked about that same tuning, and I don't know if it's happening here or if it was earlier in the sessions where Ra said she's doing, acid, the psilocybin, and it's actually hindering because it helps her instantly when she's on the medication or on the drug, the psychedelic. But if you've ever taken done ayahuasca, DMT, psilocybin, it's 10 minutes and then it crashes. So their sessions are 30 to 45 minutes. So if she did mushrooms prior to the session, she would go shoot up and have an easy time. But 10 minutes later, she would crash and it would be hard. So it became more apparent to them that if she stayed off of the drugs and just meditated more and balanced her body and chakras, that she could sustain the communication faster. Okay, so let's continue here.
Body complex are lacking in this one and, therefore, simply must be replenished. The intake of the many substances which this instrument began would be appropriate. However, this particular physical vehicle has, for approximately 25 of your years, been vital due to the spirit, the mind, and the will being harmoniously dedicated to fulfilling the service it chose to offer. Therefore, physical healing techniques are inappropriate, whereas mental and spiritual healing techniques are beneficial. 77.10 Questioner: is there any technique which we could do that we have not been doing that would be beneficial for the instrument in this case? Ra, I am Ra. We might suggest, without facetiousness, to firstly, let the instrument remove the possibility of further ingestion of this group of foodstuffs. Secondly, each of the group may become aware of the will to a greater extent. We cannot instruct upon this but merely indicate, as we have previously, that it is a vital key to the evolution of the mind/body/spirit complex. 76.
See, so before we go to the next question, so Ra is explaining there that the natural evolution of the human condition is to achieve that place. So if you're taking drugs, if you're taking medication, specifically drugs, psychedelics, then it hinders that because you're relying on that drug instead of achieving that place on your own. So for a short time to introduce you, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever do it, for a short time when to introduce you to that state of your beingness, that's a good tool if you're having a problem trying to achieve it through meditation. Only if you've tried and gotten professional help. and it didn't work still. And that's the only time I will ever, tell somebody that they should try that. But usually, like Native Americans, if you go to a kiva with sweat lodge with Native Americans and they do peyote, it's the same thing. They'll explain to you why they're having you do it, because they're trying to get you into that state and then control it so that you're not afraid, right? And put you in a safe environment so that you're not afraid. And it's the same thing. The weird thing about most of these drugs, these psychedelics, is that they have a 10-minute lifespan. It's almost as if all of them were designed to be in different places around the world for people to do by the creator of the universe to have a 10-minute time span. So you're not out for too long, because some people, when they do it and they if they have one of those visions to where they are pulled to the center of the universe and actually meet the creator, they don't want to come back. It's the same that happens in people with a near-death experience, an NDE, where they don't want to come back. Penny talks about her experience with that, where she didn't want to come back, and finally, someone like shoved her back in her body. No, you got to go. It's not time. And that's what happens to people when they do that. They get into that place, and then they could push you back. The same thing will happen with that, right? I know Chandra said, I love plant medicine. I do too. Don't get me wrong. Because it's natural, because it's a part of nature, and it is designed that way to where it has a 10-minute window for all of the psychedelics, the psilocybin, THC, DMT, what did I miss? Peyote, because they all have the same euphoric effect. Those things, like Purple Lotus, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's all the same drug that you're getting into your body. And we produce DMT in our brain. We produce DMT, right? I'm right now on the spiritual cycle of the Christ oil. Started yesterday. So I have 2 more days. So right now the oil is currently at the base of my hippocampus right now, crucified, laying dormant, right? And I'm on day 2. So in another approximate 36 hours, then if I don't, if I continue with what I'm doing with meditating and not drinking alcohol and not having sex and stuff for this 3-day time period, then the oil that's together is literally going to expand in strength, and it creates DMT that then hits the hippocampus, the third eye, and it literally will explode and literally illuminate all of your brain cells. Just everything lights up, and your ascension, your vibration goes up slightly. Or if I have sex or get drunk in the next day and a half, then I get that coal-like substance, which actually lowers your vibration and solidifies you more into this place. Okay. So I'm actually on that. If you're a Virgo anywhere in the world, you're on that cycle right now, whether you know it or not. It's the standard cycle for a Virgo. The moon is moved into Virgo right now. It's moving through Virgo, and it'll be in Virgo for another approximately 36 hours. Don't quote me on the exact. I haven't looked at my calendar, but approximately 36 hours, or maybe more like 30 hours now. I don't know the exact number, but close to that. Okay. Yes, right. Stephanie said we released. Let me put this up on the screen right here. I didn't see what you said before that. I'll look back and see what you guys were talking about there. She says we release DMT naturally when we're dying or experiencing near-death situation. Yeah, that's exactly it. It happens also, depending on your sun sign, when the moon moves into your sun sign. That's the crucifixion of Christ, the 33 years of age, and the crucifixion, the being dead and risen in 2.5 days. People say 3 days Jesus rose, but it was actually 2.5 days. But we say 3 because the same reason. If you wait 3 days and you stay celibate, paying that 10% tithing back to the Lord, don't eat from the tree of life in that 3-day time period, then you get a slight illumination, and your body secretes more DMT than is secreted when you have a near-death experience. However, you're absolutely accurate. So when people do DMT on their own, or a psilocybin or the like, they're inducing that same state, that same euphoric out of body experience by doing that. So it's crazy, but it's good. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that stuff anymore. But some people may have to, right? Yeah, I've heard about that. In fact, didn't you and I talk about that before? She's talking about she ordered the eye drops. Yeah. If it wasn't you, it was someone else. Let me put this up on the screen. Stephanie said I ordered the eye drops. It's a plant medicine that tribes use to see more clearly for night hunting, but it has other spiritual properties, seeing better with the third eye. Yeah, I don't know if maybe you and I didn't talk about it. I talked about it with someone not too long ago. It might have been Vegas. Her and I might have talked about it because she's doing a lot of work. She's more native than I am. She's my cousin, and she's more native than I am. She's back east. Over by Cassie somewhere. I don't know if she's in Montana or Idaho, but she's out that way, probably over by my ex-wife, more down south. But yeah, she has more native in her. In fact, she looks like a couple of really famous Native Americans. We looked at the pictures, and so I'm only 5%. She's something like 35% native or something. She's not here. Normally she pops in. She's not here today. Watch her pop in because I'm talking about her. And she was talking about that exact same thing because she goes to a kiva all the time and a sweat lodge and goes in and does vision quests with a tribe out there that she's part of, which I've never done. Although I was actually sitting in the place where a kiva was. I think I told you guys that story. And my ex-wife was there, and her and I apparently started talking Native American to each other, and her son watched the entire thing, and he was like watching us. We thought we were speaking English, and the entire time we were not. And he was like, "What the fuck just happened?" And we're like, "Huh?" And and he was like, "You guys were not speaking English," and we were like, "I'm like, what?" And he's like, "You guys were speaking some Native American language, and I did not understand what you were saying, and you were talking to each other, having a full conversation." I'm like, "We were having a full conversation just now." And then she actually said that, were we just speaking Native? I said, well, apparently we were, because we were literally sitting on this deck. She had a triple deck in her backyard. You came out of the house up top, and it went down halfway down the staircase, and there was a deck there where they had a sauna spa. And then they went downstairs again to the lawn area in the backyard, and I was sitting in the spa area on the bench. That a bench that went around it three sides, and it was open. And I was sitting in there, and I said to her, because I realized this area that your house is on used to be an area where the Native Americans came every year to have ceremony. And now they don't do it anymore. But this was the place because it was overlooking the water here up on this hill, up on this mountain. So they came here, and now there's a housing tract there. But right behind her house, literally about 100 yards or 50 yards away from where I was sitting, was a fence, and it went to an open area where there was a bunch of eucalyptus trees, a whole group of them, and there were turkeys that lived there in this valley. And even the people in town folks said that the turkeys were living there, but that they used to, the natives used to keep them. So this was an area that they had the ceremony. So I was telling her about that as I was sitting there, and I said, as a matter of fact, right where we're sitting used to be where their kiva was. I don't know how I knew that, but I did, and I sensed that. And she was walking up the stairs coming to the spa, and I looked at her and I said, "Welcome to my kiva, please enter." And she said, "I thank you." And we just started talking. She said, "I thank you for this ceremony and this kiva." And we were just talking to one another, not realizing that we stopped speaking English at that point. And she came in, and in our mind's eye, in my mind's eye, I was no longer sitting on a bench in front of a spa. I was sitting inside of a kiva, and she came in the kiva, and we were talking, and he was up here watching us and listening to us, and he was just like staring at us, and we didn't know that. And then all of a sudden he was like, "What the hell is going on?" And that's when we found out that we weren't speaking English. We had channeled that from over 150 years earlier in that exact spot. So that was pretty intense and pretty crazy, because I don't know, I'm learning Navajo currently, but I'm not that fluent in it, and I don't believe it was Navajo that we were speaking. So that's crazy. Okay, so let's continue, right? It's called, how do you say that? Sanaga eye drops? Yeah, I don't know if you and I talked about it, but I talked about this with somebody. I bet it was Vegas. I bet she talked about it to me. Because this is either that or I'm just having a deja vu, Stephanie. So either way, right? I think Cassie said send me the link. So Cassie, now you can look that up. And if you do, let me know, right? I hate putting anything in my eyes, so I don't know if I'll do it. But still, that's got to be really cool. Okay, so I can see why. Getting back to what you were saying, Stephanie, that helping people see to hunt at night and also opening the third eye, because you would want both of those features happening if you were hunting, say, a deer or something at night, or a buffalo at night. You would almost want night vision to be able to do that. Okay, let's continue here.
7.11 Questioner. Thank you. I would like to go back to the plan of this logos for its creation and examine the philosophical basis that is the foundation for what was created in this local creation and the philosophy of the plan for experience.
Right, Denise said, Cassie, we have reservations about a half an hour away. When I was living in Arizona, I lived in Queen Creek, Arizona. You can look that up. To get to Queen Creek, Arizona, actually, to get from California to Phoenix, Arizona, you have to cross a Native American reservation to get there. But we lived literally about 20 minutes south of the city of Apache Junction. So we were literally in Queen Creek was literally used to be Apache land. And so on all sides of us, it was the Apache Nation. So to get to my house, we had to drive across the reservation to get to it. There was no way to get to my house without driving across the reservation. So I was literally less than a mile away from the Apache reservation. And I lived there. I didn't live there for a long time. I lived there for about 3 years. But that's still, the energy is way crazy compared to here. It's like Sedona, the energy up in Sedona, Arizona, way crazy compared to the rest of the world. Lot of spiritual activity. And I miss Arizona because of that. So anybody who's lived near, like Denise, near an Indian reservation, you guys live in Oklahoma, anybody who lives in Oklahoma, you know what I'm talking about, because almost half of that state is Indian reservation. Arizona and New Mexico is kind of the same way. At least a third or more of those two states are currently Indian reservation. Most of the South has been dedicated to Native Americans. When you get to the north, not so much, but in the South, large swaths of the states in the South, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, parts of Wyoming, parts of southern parts of Colorado and Nevada, Utah. They're like full on native land, right? Blackfoot, right? Cassie said Blackfoot's one of the largest. We're out in your area, right? Yeah. Cassie said north, south, east, west. We're all around our town. See, so she's the same way. Cassie, where she lives, she says we played so many. We have so many reservation towns in sports. Oh, played so many. Was it you that was talking about that? Somebody was just talking about that. I think it was you on Wednesday talking about playing. That it was. You were talking about playing the native reservation sports against the towns that were all native. You were just talking about that on Wednesday. Yeah. So if you've ever been exposed to that or you have any of their DNA, it is a lot different than you think it is until you realize how spiritual they are. Okay, let's continue here.
I am assuming that I am correct in stating that the foundation for this, as we have stated many times before, is the first distortion. After that, what was the plan in a philosophical sense?
Right, I keep pausing. Hold on. Denise, I used to smoke the American Spirit until they sold, I think they sold to a big tobacco company. When it was made by natives, I smoked when I used to smoke for probably 10 years, I smoked American Spirit. I loved those cigarettes. That's the only, that cigarette and Camel, because Camel was Turkish tobacco. The barley that the natives grew for that cigarette of native of the American Spirit was really tasty and good. I miss that. Right. So that's the only other tobacco that I've ever smoked that I actually missed that much was that coming from the Native Americans when they made their American Spirit cigarettes. All right, let's continue.
I am Ra. We cannot reply due to a needed portion of your query which has been omitted. That is, do we speak of this particular logos? 77.12 Questioner, that is correct. I am asking with respect to this particular logos, our sun, in creating the experience of its planetary system and those sublogoi of it. Ra, I am Ra. This query has substance. We shall begin by turning to an observation of a series of concept complexes of which you are familiar as the tarot. The philosophy was to create a foundation, first of mind, then of body, and then of spiritual complex. Those concept complexes you call the tarot lie then in three groups of 7, the mind cycle, 1 through 7, the physical complex cycle, 8 through 14, the spiritual complex cycle, 15 through 21. The last concept complex may best be termed the choice. Upon the foundation of transformation of each complex, with free will guided by the root concepts offered in these cycles, the logos offered this density the basic architecture of a building and constructing and synthesizing of data culminating in the choice.
Right. Yeah. See, Chandra says, I smoke Camels. Yeah. I love that Turkish tobacco. That was good. And Penny said that she smoked American Spirits. Yeah. Love both of those cigarettes a lot. Yeah, a lot. Those were good. Okay. So now we're talking about archetypes again here, right? And levels. So let's continue here.
77.13 Questioner. Then for me to condense your statement, I see it meaning that there are 7 basic philosophical foundations for mental experience, 7 for bodily, 7 for spiritual, and that these produce the polarization that we experience sometime during the third density cycle. This may be very poorly stated on my part. Am I close to correct? Ra, I am Ra. You are correct in that you perceive the content of our prior statement with accuracy. You are incorrect in that you have no mention of the, shall we say.
That's the only other thing I met. Polly said, I smoke the tobacco Drum Gold. Drum, are you talking about Drum, the German barley tobacco? I smoked Drum in the blue pouch where I rolled my own cigarettes. That was a really good barley cut, and that was like a blue smoke that would come out. I missed that cigarette too. I forgot about that tobacco. Oh man, that was good tasting. So I get you. If you like the gold one, that's the gold Drum. Yeah, that's good, Polly. That's good cigarettes right there. Good rolls, good smokes right there. Good tobacco. And that's more natural. It doesn't have all the carcinogens in that stuff. So yeah, I forgot about that. I missed that one too. Okay, sorry. Now we're talking about, look at us all talking about smoking tobacco, right? But yeah, I do miss smoking. I stopped smoking in 2013, April 6th of 2013, but I still miss it. I don't miss alcohol. 3 years next month, no alcohol. And I drank a lot of alcohol. I drank a fifth of vodka or gin a day. And I don't miss that as much as I miss smoking tobacco. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue here.
Location of all of these concept complexes, that is, they exist within the roots of the mind, and it is from this resource that their guiding influence and leitmotifs may be traced. You may further note that each foundation is itself not single but a complex of concepts. Furthermore, there are relationships betwixt mind, body, and spirit of the same location in octave, for instance, 1, 8, 15, and relationships within each octave which are helpful in the pursuit of the choice by the mind/body/spirit complex. The logos under which these foundations stand is one of free will. Thusly, the foundations may be seen to have unique facets and relationships for each mind/body/spirit complex. Only 22, the choice, is relatively fixed and single. 77.14 Questioner.
I was unaware of that. Stephanie said they got rid of the old school Turkish Royals by Camel. The new version is not the same. They probably went to a more American barley cut. And it's not the same because the Camel was not all, it was barley and the Turkish cut, so it was a different cut, but it was a blend. So it looks like they went to more of the American barley, and yeah, this is not the same. It doesn't taste good, right? Yeah, they're expensive, right? Depends on where you're at. Reese says $55. Wow, that's crazy, Reese. That's Australia for you. You're out there on an island, so they charge you more for stuff. Right, $12 is cheap. I think Benny was talking about the American Spirit. I don't know about if Reese, but Reese, for you to get American Spirit in Australia would be a lot more money because it has to be imported from America. Penny is more east of me where that company is from, so it would be cheaper. But that's actually really cheap. $12 is cheap. She must be near the manufacturer to get it at that cheap because It was 12. Pardon me. It was $7 back in when I was smoking them back in, and I'm here in California. For me, for a pack was already $7 back in 2013. So if she's only at $12 now, she's got it because they're probably like 20 out here for the same brand. So if you're talking Reese, if you're talking American Spirit in over in Australia, I could see it being 55 Australian dollars right now, which your guys' dollar is pretty close to ours. I think it's like 85 cents for an American dollar. If you were to change the American, into your 85 cents worth of one American dollar over here. So 55 of your dollars, considering that they have to ship them over to Australia, would be probably what it is, right? Cassie said, we only pay $6.50 a pack here. Yeah, see, Cassie's right there. That's why. Yeah, you're in Montana. That's where they grow it. That's where they manufacture it. You get the cheap price. It's not cheap like that over here. Right, I don't know because I haven't looked at American Spirit cigarettes, but all cigarettes out here are very expensive right now. All the rest of them, compared to, I remember buying a pack of cigarettes for like $2. It was $1.25, I think, when I was a kid, and when I was really young, it was only 33 cents a pack. But when I started smoking it when I started buying them at about 15 years old, they were about $1.75, and I remember when they went up to $2, and then it just got crazy, right? I know, right? Cassie's like, Reese, per pack? Yeah, because that's like $100 out here for a carton of cigarettes. So if he's talking about $55 for a carton, then he's doing it really cheap, but I'll bet he's talking about per pack. Yeah, because he's getting imported cigarettes from the United States. So they charge a lot of money for that to get it over there, if that's even what he's talking about. If he's talking about regular cigarettes, man, if you're Australian and they're charging you that much per pack, give up smoking cigarettes or grow your own tobacco, bro. All right, let's continue here.
I am probably having a problem with the concept of time since it appears that the Logos was aware of the polarization choice. It seems that this choice for polarization at the end of third density is an important philosophical plan for the experience past third density. Am I correct in assuming that this process is a process to create the proper or the desired experience that will take place in the creation after third density is complete? Ra, I am Ra. These philosophical foundations are those of third density. Above this density there remains the recognition of the architecture of the Logos, but without the veils which are so integral a part of the process of making the choice in third density. 77.15 Questioner. The specific question that I had was that it seems to me that the choice was planned to create intense polarization past third density so that experience would be intense past third density. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. Given that our interpretation of your sound vibration
Yeah, Reese, that's crazy, bro. He said just normal smokes per pack, $55. Holy crap. You guys need to, you know what, if you were smart, you would start growing tobacco down there and make your own pack of cigarettes because it must be that they're importing them. Because if somebody was growing tobacco in that country, it'd be a lot cheaper. And if it's not, that's a crazy regulation. Maybe you have a lot of taxes and stuff on them. Right. Paulie said 18 pounds for a pack of 20. Yeah, that's about right. Because that's a little more expensive than we're paying here because the sterling is still worth more than the dollar right now. So I think we're 75 cents per sterling. So that would be, something like $25 for a pack over here. I don't know what they're paying, depending on what you're getting. You heard some of them said 12 something, 6 something, depending on where you are in America. America is not standard price across the country. Depending on where you are in the country, you pay less or more. If you're in a richer area of the country or a coastline, you pay more for everything because tourists go there. So they charge you more. If you go into a casino here in the United States, a pack of cigarettes that'll cost you $4 in a gas station will cost you $10 in a casino or a liquor store or something like that because they charge you for the convenience. So it depends on where you go, right? Yeah, Reese said $2 Australian to make 1 pound, right? So yeah, so that means we would probably be about 75 cents. So it would cost us $1.25 to make 1 sterling. Yeah, to make 1 pound. Because if you're $2 for 1 pound, then you're about 86 cents, maybe 80 cents for American dollar. That's $1.20, $1.25. So it's pretty close. So there's a 50 cent. So maybe $1.50 instead of $1.25 to make 1 pound. I'd have to look it up because it fluctuates. All right, let's continue.
Flexes is appropriate. This is incorrect. The intensity of fourth density is that of the refining of the rough-hewn sculpture. This is, indeed, in its own way, quite intense, causing the mind/body/spirit complex to move ever inward and onward in its quest for fuller expression. However, in third density the statue is forged in the fire. This is a
right before I know I keep stopping. Some people out there are probably going to get mad at me. This is why they discourage people from owning a farm or a plantation. Plantation just means farm, because if you own your own farm, you can grow your own tobacco and chop it up and roll it up and smoke it, or just roll it up to a cigar and smoke it. They don't want you doing that because they want you paying the prices so they can get rich off of you with everything. They don't want you having your own chickens to get your own eggs for free. They want you going to the store and paying $10, $20 nowadays for a dozen eggs. They don't want you having your own cattle and cutting them up yourself and eating your own meat. They want you going to the store and paying their high prices. If everybody in this country went back to having their own little farms and having their own livestock and not having the stores, we would be a much richer nation as a whole, instead of the 1% having all the money. We would all have all the money. But because they get you addicted to the stores, and now they're getting you to go through the self-checkouts, so now they don't have to pay somebody a wage to stand there and ring you up and pay somebody a wage plus medical insurance. They get away with that, and you work for them for free, and they just take all the profit. You go into the store and you get your own stuff. You go and ring up your own stuff. You bag your own stuff. You go and put your own cart away, right? And so because of that, now they've cut out 5 employees, so they're making more of the profit. And the only thing they have to pay is someone to stand around like a guard and help you when you don't know what you're doing, and people to put the product on the shelves. That's it. That's all they have to do, clean up spills. So that they lower their overhead and they make more profit, and you do all the work for them. It's the same thing with gas stations. When you go there, there's one person sitting in a booth now not doing anything until you walk in, and they just go boop, boop, and then you pay for it, and they go boop, 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 and hand you the receipt, and you walk out. Right? There used to be people who check your tire pressure, your oil pressure, your brake pressure, your water in your windshield wipers, the water in your radiator, pump your gas for you, wash your windows for you, clean your tires for you. People got paid to do all of that. And the gas price right then was 25 cents a gallon. And people got paid to be there and do all those things for you. Now, gas is like $5 a gallon, and you get out and have to do all that stuff for yourself. And you work for that company who used to provide that for you. All right, let's continue here.
Type of intensity which is not the property of fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh densities. 77.16 Questioner. What I am really attempting to understand, since all of these 21 philosophical bases result in the 22nd, which is the choice, is why this choice is so important, why the Logos, it seems, puts so much emphasis on this choice, and what function that choice of polarity is, precisely, in the evolution or the experience of that which is created by the Logos. Ra, I am Ra. The polarization or choosing of each mind/body/spirit is necessary for Hive stability from third density. The higher densities do their work due to the polarity gained in this choice. 77.17 Questioner. Now, would it be possible for this work of our density to be performed if all of the sub-logoi chose the same polarity in any particular expression or evolution of a Logos? Let us make the assumption that our sun created nothing but, through the first distortion, there was no product except positive polarity. Would work then be done in fourth density and higher as a function only of this positive polarization evolving from our original creation of sub-logos?
Welcome, Jacqueline. Jacqueline Taylor just popped in and said hello to everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's continue.
Ra, I am Ra. Elements of this query illustrate the reason I was unable to answer your previous question without knowledge of the Logos involved. To turn to your question, there were Logoi which chose to set the plan for the activation of mind/body/spirit complexes through each true color body without recourse to the prior application of free will. It is, to our knowledge, only in an absence of free will that the conditions of which you speak obtain. In such a procession of densities you find an extraordinarily long, as you measure time, third density, likewise, fourth density. Then, as the entities begin to see the Creator, there is a very rapid, as you measure time, procession towards the eighth density. This is due to the fact that one who knows not, cares not. Let us illustrate by observing the relative harmony and unchanging quality of existence in one of your, as you call it, primitive tribes. The entities have the concepts of lawful and taboo, but the law is inexorable and all events occur as predestined. There is no concept of right and wrong, good or bad. It is a culture in monochrome. In this context you may see the one you call Lucifer as the true light bringer, in that the knowledge of good and evil both precipitated the mind/body/spirits of this logos from the Edenic conditions of constant contentment, but also provided the impetus to move, to work, and to learn. Those logoi whose creations have been set up without free will have not, in the feeling of those logoi, given the Creator the quality and variety of experience of itself as have those logoi which have incorporated free will as paramount. Thusly you find those logoi moving through the timeless states at what you would see as a later space/time to choose the free will character when elucidating the foundations of each logos. 77.18.
Right. So literally those people and then just people. So he was using the primitive tribe, say somebody was on an island that is secluded away from modern society. Or even in the past where they were pretty much an ecosystem to themselves. They may evolve to that place where they don't have the knowledge of free will, but the Lucifer character, the ego character, the ego is still going to affect them, but it might take their development as a whole species, they're isolated in that pocket, longer to get to the realization of free will and the realization of that expansion of the consciousness from that particular nexus or stage in their development up, because of having that limited thought processes, but they would still achieve it, is the point. So the point here that Ra is making is that whether you're aware of the ascension or not, you will still achieve the ascension. So it doesn't matter the semantics involved in the knowledge that you have, the natural order of things in the universe will still win out. So even if you're completely unaware of any religion or any type of spiritual ascension, you will still ascend. It'll just take longer than it will for somebody who has actively lives in a societal structure that has religion or spirituality or both to expand their consciousness to that realization of of that portion of the logi, as he said, the logos of the individual or the entire societal structure, to ascend to that. In retrospect or in observance in history here, say the Western civilization currently today, and the civilization from South America that disappeared a few thousand years ago off the face of the earth. And so you have at the same time that those people were active on the planet thousands of years ago, you had the Europeans who were active on the planet at that time. And those people in South America disappeared off the face of the earth. Some people like to say, well, aliens must have come and got them. They all must have died in some cataclysm. Weirdly, when that event happened, say like with Pompeii, when Pompeii was a disaster that happened when the mountain blew up and had a volcano that erupted, we eventually found all the bodies locked in the ground and dug them up and were able to excavate and find those bodies. The people in South America disappeared and they did not reappear anywhere else. So they didn't migrate somewhere else because there would have been an influx of 2 million people in some facet in the surrounding peoples in societies, and there were not. So 2 million people disappeared off the face of the earth and did not leave a trace of their existence. Okay, and that's why people will just and that live in 3D say it had to have been aliens came down and picked them all up. There would still be some people who resisted, so there would have to be still some bodies that would have been found, and there were none. No animals either. They just disappeared. Okay, the animals would just move on into their own wilderness. If the humans were there and there was leftovers or dead people, the animals would have lingered around that area, eating the bodies and trying to stay with them, but they didn't. They left. Why? Because the people were gone completely. So it wasn't long when there was no food for the animals, so they went and sought shelter and food elsewhere. So the structures are still there. Okay, we know if you listen to Ra talking about that, those people ascended because they they came into the mindset, and there's history about that we can find and have found, that shows that they came into the mindset of, I am not the thinking mind, I am not the pain body, I am something greater than that, I am an immortal spirit, I am everlasting, and I am forever. And that was what they taught their entire societal structure and lived by. And then they all ascended, they all disappeared. Okay. So at the exact same time that was going on in that pocket of the world, for those people, you had the same people in North America and the same other humans in Europe who had a societal structure that we are now descendants of in the Americas and most of around the world, from that European ideology or from the Middle East. If you go back far enough, that societal structure that is now the global societal structure did not come to that realization until very recently, the same realization. And we're not teaching it worldwide yet. Okay. So it's taken 4,000 years, 5,000 years, approximately 4,000 or 5,000 years, about 3,500 years, since they disappeared, for that to reappear en masse. And it's starting to reappear en masse. Raw coming through, talking about it. Other people coming through like myself who've been talking about this in this life, where this information about spirituality and spiritual growth and the expansion of the consciousness to the same level that they had in the South America has now taken 3,000 to 4,000 years to gain ground again on this earth. So there's a good example of what Ra's talking about right here, where you could take somebody that's primitive, say in another place, and they wouldn't know about that. And if they never learned about it and were not exposed to it, they're still going to come to that natural conclusion anyways. It just might take them a little bit longer. And that's what Ra's is literally saying right here. All right, so let's continue.
Questioner, I guess, under the first distortion, it was the free will of the Logos to choose to evolve without free will. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 77.19 Questioner, do the Logoi that choose this type of evolution choose both the service to self and the service to others path for different Logoi, or do they choose just one of the paths? Ra, I am Ra. Those, what you would call, early Logoi which chose lack of free will foundations, to all extents with no exceptions, founded Logoi of the service to others path. The, shall we say, saga of polarity, its consequences, and limits, were unimagined until experienced. 77.20 Questioner, in other words, you are saying that originally the Logoi that did not choose this free will path did not choose it simply because they had not conceived of it in later Logoi, extending the first distortion farther down through their evolution.
No. Okay. So Polly said, I thought Logos meant code. Well, it kind of does. I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that I caught that. I put on my glasses and I was reading up the chat. It depends on how you're translating it. It's a conceptual word. In the reference that Ra is referring to, logos in the Greek original word, logos means like eco-structure, not just code, but code will play a part in it. Like say this. The collective consciousness of the earth is a logos. Okay. So the original creator of the universe was a logos. That is an actuator. So it is in a sense code, but it's not, that's on a basic third dimensional term, meaning code. Codex would be more appropriate than the word code. But the logos is more closer to the Greek word spindle wheel that we refer to as a chakra. It's an ecosystem that is evolving, that is energy, frequency, and vibration all in one. So in a sense, you're correct in the word code, but like I said, codex would be more appropriate and more defined to DNA, double helix, triple helix, quadrihelix. Would be more appropriate. So the code, DNA code, or DNA codex, would be more appropriate. So the sun itself in the solar system is a logos. Okay, so you have the creator of the universe, say, creating the universe. The universe is a logos. It's a sub-logos from the creator. Then the universe, inside the universe, you have a solar or a galaxy. The galaxy is a sub-logos of the creator. Then below that, you have the solar system inside the galaxy. Say this solar system that we're in, the solar system. That is a sub logos. Then you have the planet Earth and our ecosystem that is the collective consciousness of the human race currently on it, along with all the life on it. That's a sub logos, because it is a creation. So it is a codex that is energy, frequency, and vibration, which is the spindle wheel that we now refer to as a chakra center point, an energy point that is a fluctuation energy point that is turning. And so the Greeks called it a spindle because it's a wheel within a wheel, which you hear of in the Bible. Okay. So the logo or logi that he's referring to is that codex that makes up an ecosystem. Your single cell in your body is a logos. It's a sub-logos of your body. Do you see? So it's not just a code, but like I said, it's more of a codex than it is a code, right? Because a code could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, or 3.14159. That's a code. But a codex is life. It's energy, frequency, and vibration. So the word codex of love. Thank you, Cassie. Right? Yeah, let me put that up there. Yeah, codex of love, because that is that's even closer. I like that. Thank you for that. So the logos would be the codex of love, or the love of codex, like philosophy is to the love of knowledge, or the knowledge of love. So the logos is and would be each creative body, consciousness, co-creating reality, or this illusion. Okay. And so we as a human species on this earth are co-creators, and we're creating our own reality here constantly and changing what the landscape of our reality looks like. So that's a sub logos. Sub logos to the solar system. The solar system's a sub logos to the galaxy. Galaxy is a sub logos to the universe. The universe is a sub logos to the creator. Okay. I hope that helps. Right. Micro to the macro. Yes, Jacqueline. Micro to the macro, the macrocosm being the creator, the microcosm being us down here, right? As the individual. So sub logi, logos, microcosm, microscope, microcosm, macrocosm, macroscope, logi, big, small, as above, so below, as within, so without, as below, so above, right? As above, so below, as without, so within. Logos. Okay, let's continue.
Experienced it as an outcropping or growth from that extension of the first distortion. Am I correct in saying that? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. 77.21 Questioner. Then did this particular logos that we experience plan for this polarity and know all about it prior to its plan? That I suspect is what happened. Ra, I am Ra. This is quite correct. 77.22 Questioner. In that case, you would have as a logos, you would have the advantage of selecting the form of acceleration, I might say, of spiritual evolution by planning for what we call the major archetypical philosophical foundation and planning these as a function of the polarity that would be gained in third density. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is exquisitely correct. 77.23 Questioner. In that case, it seems that a thorough knowledge of the precise nature of these philosophical foundations would be of primary importance to the study of evolution of mind, body, and spirit, and I would like to carefully go through each of the basic 21, starting with the mind, if this is agreeable with Ra. Ra, I am Ra. This is agreeable with two requests which must be made. Firstly, that an attempt be made to state the student's grasp of each archetype. We may then comment. We cannot teach/learn to the extent of learn/teaching. Secondly, we request that it be constantly kept before the mind, as the candle before the eye, that each mind/body/spirit complex shall, and should, and indeed must perceive each archetype, if you use this convenient term, in its own way. Therefore, you may see that precision is not the goal, rather quality of general concept complex perception is the goal. 77.2.
Right, we were talking about this on Wednesday on the Zoom call. For those of you who are here watching the podcast, that we do a Zoom call on Wednesday that's not on air, so that we can have a conversation with some of you out there and answer questions for you that you might not want to ask, or can't ask in the live. that you can come on Wednesday and you can ask questions and then we can talk about that. We were talking about how with everything, and this is what Ra is referring to here, that each individual has to realize the interpretation of different things to themselves. There's a generalized knowledge that you gain from the universe in your ascension, in your awakening, and with downloads and things like that. But when you're getting information from, say, the Akashic Record or from your guides or your higher self, it's tailored to you specifically because you're a differentiation. You're a individual, unique experiencer that has your total experience is the sum total of you is your entire experience and yours alone, because you're your own perspective as a witnesser, as an experiencer. So you could be standing next to another person and their makeup is going to be different because they have different archetypes that rule them as opposed to you. And so interpretively, you're going to see the universe slightly different than they are. Hence you hear the comments or the quote, we don't perceive the universe for how it actually is. We perceive the universe by how we are. Okay, so because it's our experiences as an individual that give us that perspective. So your focus determines your reality. Your perspective determines your reality. So at this point, Ra is saying, if we're going to discuss the archetypes, we have to make sure that you're focusing on the archetype like a candle, in front of the eyes, so that you're focused on that particular archetype. However, you have to realize as the questioner that each individual is going to interpret those archetypes slightly different because of they're going to have to rely on their experience from their past and what they've learned in life to interpret what it is that is happening to them. That's the beauty of this place. That's the beauty of this illusion, that it was created and we were all created in it on purpose to have a unique experience, so a unique perspective on everything that's going on. So we have a place that was created, and now we have a bunch of people in it, and no two people perceive the exact same event or the exact same place or the exact same nature or the exact same action the exact same way. Everybody perceives it slightly different, and that's supposed to be done that way, and that's done that way on purpose by the Creator to have all of these experiences be completely the way it is. Right. And now my mother just knocked over her water, so I have to go and kind of clean that up for her. So I'm going to turn on Ra, and I'll be right back while I go and sop up the water off the floor.
2-4 questioner. Now, there are several general concepts that I would like to be sure that we have clear before going into this process, and I will certainly adhere to the requests that you have just stated. When our logos designed this particular evolution of experience, it decided to use the system of which we spoke, creating, or allowing for, polarization through total free will. How is this different from the logos that does not do this? I see the logos creating the possibility of increase in vibration through the densities. Let me ask first, how are the densities provided for and set up by the logos, if you can answer this? Ra, I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this working. The psychic attack upon this instrument has, shall we say, left scars which must be tended, in our own opinion, in order to maintain the instrument. Let us observe your second density. Many come more rapidly to third density than others, not because of an innate efficiency of catalysis but because of unusual opportunities for investment. In just such a way, those of fourth density may invest third, those of fifth density may invest fourth. When fifth density has been obtained, the process takes upon itself a momentum based upon the characteristics of wisdom when applied to circumstance. The logos itself, then, in these instances provides investment opportunities, if you wish to use that term. May we inquire if there are any brief queries at this space/time? 77.25 questioner. Is there anything that we can do after this contact to increase the instrument's comfort as related to the psychic?
Right. Hi to everybody who just popped in. Brooke said hello, and I didn't say hi because I ran off before I get to see that. Hi, Brooke. Welcome. Steve, welcome. Did I miss anybody? I apologize. I had to run off. And Polly, did I say hi to you? I had to run off and clean up my mom. She spilled her water. She was trying to put it on her little coaster, and she set it offset from the coaster. And so because it was offset from the coaster, she realized it wasn't. She was trying to move it, and when she moved it too far, offset the other way. and she set it down and it fell and got on the floor. So I had to wipe it up, and I was dancing around wiping up the the water. Got her some more water as well. Okay, so welcome to those guys, those of you. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody else that popped in just then. And was it Paulie was saying, please help me to join this group. I know Cassie tried before. Oh, okay. So yeah, Paulie, we'll get you in to the chat. We also got to get Denise back in the chat because something happened with hers. So we're almost done here. So we'll finish with the session, and somebody, Cassie or somebody, will be able to do that. Get you in there. And if not, we'll figure it out. You can message me if they can't get you in, and I'll figure out how to get you in. Right. If you're going to be in the Law of One class chat, we have a chat on Messenger that, for those of you out there listening, if you're out there on the MP3 broadcast, if you guys have Messenger out there in the world, wherever you are, and you want to ask questions and you can't because you're not live when I'm live on Fridays, you guys can get a hold of me on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're listening to me. If you're on a MP3 app, and you can't get a hold of me, you can always go to Podbean. That's where you got the RSS number leads back to that anyways. Because if you have me on an app somewhere, they had to put the RSS number in there. That's the only place where I have that is Podbean. So you can go to www.orionrising.podbean.com. And then you can send a message to me there, or you can find me on YouTube under my name, Leonard O'Neill. And you can see that I have the podcast there. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I post reels. You can go there and message me. I check those daily because I post a reel or short, whatever you want to call it, every day. If you get a hold of me, if you have access to Messenger, we can get you in the chat. And then we are talking in there. It's 24 hours a day. It's online because people are all around the world. So there's always somebody that's awake in there 24 hours a day. We have conversations that we do. And then I post the show in there. And then I do on Wednesday, I do a Q&A at 3 p.m. West Coast America time because I'm here in California. That's GMT -8 currently. 19 hours behind Australia, depending on where you are, the east of Australia and the Sydney area, 19 hours behind that. We go live, not live on air, but I do a Zoom call that is not recorded and it is not on air anywhere in case you guys want to ask questions about spirituality or anything for that matter to talk about. And we work with you in there and we'll answer questions and talk about those things. So, Paulie, if you can't get into the Law of One chat, you'll have to have you message me and then we'll get a hold of you. But yeah, we're there talking all the time. So anybody who might be out here listening to this that's new, if you guys want to get into the chat where you can have conversations and have people that can answer your questions and help you with spiritual stuff, or contact me, contact Cassie, contact myself, or somebody else that's here, that's in here that can get you in, that's an admin in that group. We can get you into that chat, and you can watch. Sometimes we just have regular conversations where people just hanging out and talking to one another. Most of the time we're talking about different things in spirituality and, cleansing. And we've just had a long conversation where people were talking about different gems and different stones and the properties of those. And so that happens all the time, 24 hours a day, right? So, right. Shelly said, thank you. Happy to find you here. Yeah. So, Shelly, if you're not in there, you can get in there. Like I said, just contact Cassie right now because she happens to be here. Sorry, Cassie, I'm throwing everybody at you. And she can get you in. And if she has an issue, like I have to work with Denise because somehow she left the group and doesn't remember doing it. And we're trying to get Denise back in, and she's having a problem finding the group again. So at some point, I'll be working. Oh, and Jacqueline's here. So Jacqueline can get you in too. I'll start kicking some people towards Jacqueline. Jacqueline is also an admin in the Law of One chat. I believe that she is. If she's not, she should be. So get a hold of Cassie or get a hold of Jacqueline, and she can help you guys to get into the group and then send you a link, or tag you in the group so that it'll pop up in your feed for Messenger. And then you guys can be in that chat. And like I said, there's people on 24 hours a day. I go to sleep and I wake up and they're still talking. So I end up turning off the notifications because otherwise it might, people are talking all night long. So you have to turn off the notifications and then check in, and I have to go backwards in time and find out what the conversation was about. Right. Right. Okay. So let's continue because there's only about 48 seconds left here, and it is only 4:30, so we can start the next session today. So let's continue and end this session, and I'll start session 78 today. Okay. So let's continue here.
Attack. Or is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact in this present situation? Ra. I am Ra. The faculties of healing which each has commenced energizing may be used. The entity may be encouraged to remain motionless for a period. As it will not appreciate this, we suggest the proper discussion. The physical appurtenance called the sensor was just a degree off, this having no deeper meaning. We do ask, for reasons having to do with the physical comfort of the instrument, that you continue in your careful efforts at alignment. You are conscientious. All is well. We leave you, my friends, in the glorious love and light of the one Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. I am Ra. Adonai.
Right, let me unshare this, and I'll share the next session. Yeah, so Shelly said if somebody could add her, please. So one of you guys, Cassie or Jacqueline, please add her to the Law of One class chat. And then tag her so she knows she's in it. All right, okay. Let me, while you guys are doing that, let me open the next session for the Law of One, which that was 79, 77. Let's see if this is 78.
February 19th, 1982. 78.0.
Yes, okay, so let me share this. I don't know if you guys can hear it when I just play it like that, so let me share it here, right? Let me present. Let me get this shared over here, and then we'll start this session. Okay, so let me put myself back up in full screen here so you don't have to look at that. All right, and then I'll do a sound check here, and you guys let me know if you guys can hear this okay, and we'll go ahead and start session 78.
February 19th, 1982. 78.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. 78.1 Questioner. Was there some problem with the ritual performed that it was necessary to perform it twice? Ra. I am Ra. There was a misstep which created a momentary lapse of concentration. This was not well. 78.2 Questioner. What was the misstep? Ra. I am Ra. It was a missed footing. 78.3 Questioner. Did this have any detrimental effect on the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. Very little. The instrument felt the presence it has come to associate with cold and spoke. The instrument did the appropriate thing. 78.4 Questioner. Could you tell me the condition of the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. The physical complex is as previously stated. There is some slight loss of vital energy. The basic complex distortions are similar to your previous asking. 78.5 Questioner. The instrument would like for me to ask if there is any problem with her kidneys? Ra. I am Ra. This query is more complex than its brevity certifies. The physical complex renal system of this instrument is much damaged. The time/space equivalent which rules the body complex is without flaw. There was a serious question, due to psychic attack, as to whether the spiritual healing of this system would endure. It did so, but has the need to be reinforced by affirmation of the ascendancy of the spiritual over the apparent or visible. When this instrument began ingesting substances designed to heal, in a physical sense, among other things the renal complex, this instrument was ceasing the affirmation of healing. Due to this, again, the healing was weakened. This is of some profound distortion, and it would be well for the instrument to absorb these concepts. We ask your forgiveness for offering information which may abridge free will, but the dedication of the instrument is such that it would persevere regardless of its condition.
Right, but Stephanie, I used to be a roadie, so I was getting what you said, right? I was laughing because Stephanie said, when I said, let me do a sound check so you guys can tell me if it's working, and Stephanie answered me like a roadie. She answered me like somebody who's worked concerts or something, and she said, check, check, check. And I laughed, right? And then she said, just what I put up on the screen, you could tell that I've been to too many concerts and shows. Check, 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 check. Yeah, right. That's just like I still do it the same way when I have somebody do a mic check or I'm on doing a mic check. Like if I go on someone else's show and they give me a mic check and I'm like, mic check, check 1, check 2. I still do it the same way. I still do it the same way that I did when I was a roadie and I'd be setting up mics and stuff. Aaron Fowler and I used to laugh about that because he and I would do it the same way. when we would be ready for our show, I'd be like, check, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. And he would start laughing. He would like 3, 3, 7, 7. And I'd be like, I got you. I'm like, check. And we'd both start laughing. And his wife would be like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, sorry. That's when you've been in a band or a roadie for people in a concert. You check other words. You want to check the words that would make a squeak sound. Check, that does that. Or 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Those sounds will make a microphone squeal if it's overmodulated. So you do words that do that. That's hilarious, Stephanie, that you said that. That's hilarious right there. Okay. So yeah, you want to check those words that'll overmodulate, and some of the words two that will overmodulate. If you're overmodulated, it'll squeal, and overmodulation. That's how you get saying when you're too close to a speaker and it's overmodulated and it'll squeal. It causes that feedback from a sound. That's two, woo, woo, n. Those sounds 1, 2, 2, 2. Check. Those sounds will cause it to overmodulate. So if they don't overmodulate when you make those sounds, then your microphone's doing good. That's hilarious that she said that. Check. That's funny. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's continue here.
If possible. Thusly, we offer this information that it may persevere with a fuller distortion towards comfort. 7.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, when I referred to Aaron Fowler, he and I had a podcast. He and I and his wife had a podcast called Skull Island that we did on the Wednesday's time slot at 3 p.m. We did for a while, for a little over a year. And then we took a hiatus from it, and we never went back to doing it. And it was Miguel de la Peña, Aaron Fowler, Aaron's wife, myself. All four of us had a podcast where we talked about everything in the world, specifically around geopolitics and the deep state and stuff like that. But we were talking about anything. It didn't matter what it was. If it made people angry or triggered people, we were talking about it, breaking down those doors. And so we called it our pirate cast, Skull Island. Yeah, it's still there. We still have the channel, and Aaron still posts on there. But I don't know if he does his wife was doing a podcast on there for a while with a friend of hers. So we still have the platform. We just haven't had the show on the air. All right, let's continue here.
28.6 Questioner. What was the experience that caused the healing of the time/space? Ra. I am Ra. This experience was the...
No, I did not. Paulie said, did you ever roadie in England? No, I was on here in the United States most of the time when what's his name? Bill Graham. When Bill Graham was still alive, I worked for Bill Graham, the promoter, the German promoter here in the United States. I didn't go overseas to follow anybody, but I was specifically in the San Francisco Bay Area and up and down the West Coast of the United States. I worked for him. And then when he died, by that time I was in my early 20s, and I was working, doing a regular job instead of being a roadie. Right. But I had a good time when I was doing it. I was just talking to somebody about that the other day, because I was in a band. I was a lead singer and a rhythm guitarist in a band, and thinking I wanted to be a rock star. And then I ended up getting a regular life outside of that, doing this, specifically not talking, doing this, but teaching spirituality. So that pulled me away from doing that. So by the time I was in my early 20s, I was doing this, but not on air with a podcast yet. And that's basically where I've stayed. That's funny. Rick, welcome, brother. I just happened to put my glasses on so I could see. So I never wrote it in England, but a lot of my friends did. But I didn't, because I did it. And then once Bill Graham died, which was back then, by the time I was 21 or 22, I was doing this. I was teaching people spirituality and religion and things like that. And so I ended up in this stuff. Right. Okay, let's continue, right? Yeah, the subtitles say raw, R-A-W, and not R-A. Well, it's because of the sound. The subtitles, that's funny, Brooke, that you say that. Because the sound is raw, right? R-A-W. But if I left it just R-A, the computer, the algorithm that I'm using to say the words that you're hearing says R-A instead of raw. So I add the H to it. And then when it says raw, the sound for your subtitle picks up raw, R-A-W, like raw meat. Isn't that funny? Instead of just R-A. It's hilarious that, so that algorithm for the app that you're on is picking up the word raw, R-A-W. That's hilarious. I didn't notice that because I haven't watched my own show with the subtitles on for a while. All right, let's continue. That's funny, Brooke, that you say that.
Healing of self by self with the catalyst of the spiritual healer whom you call Pachita. 78.7 Questioner, thank you. In utilizing the energetic displacements of thought forms energizing the instrument during contact most efficiently, what specifically could we do? Ra, I am Ra. Each of the support group has an excess of love and light to offer the instrument during the working. Already each
Yeah, I actually changed I put the H there so the computer would say the word raw, but the way the computer says it, the other computer that's picking up the subtitles, because the subtitles are on, is picking up the word raw, R-A-W, because of the way that Mark, the voice on this algorithm, is speaking the words, is coming across for the other algorithm who's trying to translate what that algorithm is saying, is coming up with the word R-A-W, because I didn't put the W in there, I put an H in there. But it's hilarious that it came across that way. That's funny. All right, let's continue.
To the instrument love, light, and thoughts of strength of the physical, mental, and spiritual configurations. These sendings are forms. You may refine these sendings until the fullest manifestations of love and light are sent into the energy web of this entity which functions as instrument. Your exact sending is, in order to be most potent, the creature of your own making. 78.8 Questioner, okay. Thank you. I am going to go back to an earlier time, if you could call it that, in the evolution to try to establish a very fundamental base for some of the concepts that seem to be the foundation of everything that we experience here so that we can more fully examine the basis of our evolution. I am guessing that in our Milky Way galaxy, that is, the major galaxy with billions of stars that we find ourselves in, that the progress of evolution was from the center outward toward the rim, and that in the early evolution of this galaxy the first distortion was not extended down past the sublogos simply because it was not thought of or not conceived, and that this extension of the first distortion, which created the polarization that we experience, was something that occurred at what we would call a later time, or as the evolution progressed outward from the center of the galaxy. Am I in any way correct with this statement?
Close.
Ra, I am Ra. You are correct. 78.9 Questioner, now, we have the first, second, and third distortions of free will, love, and light. Am I correct in assuming that the central core of this major galaxy began to form with the third distortion? That was the origin of our Milky Way galaxy? Ra, I am Ra. In the most basic or teleological sense you are incorrect, as the one infinite creator is all that there is. In an Indies toward seed form you are correct in seeing the first manifestation visible to the eye of the body complex which you inhabit as the third distortion, light, or to use a technical term, limitless light. 78.10 Questioner.
Right, because that's the closest, the limitless light is the closest we can perceive physically, empirically with our eyes, and mentally what the spirit body of the creator is. I had a hard time even articulating that. So the closest to the concept of what the creator is from our perception would be infinite light or infinitesimal light would be the closest. Yeah, but that's as close as we can describe it here. If Jacqueline were still here, she would say the same. You could try, but from our perspective down here and our understanding of the concept, when we look there, is almost impossible in these words that are manifest on this earth and the concepts that we use for those things for us to actually get across and articulate in with any level of accuracy is infinite light or something similar to that, like Ross stating.
Now, I realize that we are on very difficult ground, you might say, for precise terminology here, since it is totally displaced from our system of coordinates for evaluation in our present system of language. These early logoi that formed in the center of the galaxy wished, I assume, to create a system of experience for the one creator. Did they then start with no previous experience or information about how to do this? This is difficult to ask. Ra, I am Ra. At the beginning of this creation, or, as you may call it, Octave there were those things known which were the harvest of the preceding octave. About the preceding creation we know as little as we do of the octave to come. However, we are aware of those pieces of gathered concept which were the tools which the Creator had in the knowing of the self. These tools were of two kinds. Firstly, there was an awareness of the efficiency for experience of mind, body, and spirit. Secondly, there was an awareness of the most efficacious nature or, if you will, significator of mind, body, and spirit. Thirdly, there was the awareness of two aspects of mind, of body, and of spirit that the significator could use to balance all catalyst. You may call these two the matrix and the potentiator. 78.11 Questioner, could you elaborate please on the nature and quality of the matrix and the potentiator? Ra, I am Ra. In the mind complex the matrix may be described as consciousness. It has been called the magician. It is to be noted that of itself consciousness is unmoved.
Right. And Stephanie said, it's sort of apropos that she said that right on cue, right? I love that. I love things that you can't put into words. You see it clearly in your mind, but you can't find the words to describe it. That happens a lot here on Earth, but it also, more importantly, happens from a spiritual standpoint or from the standpoint of trying to translate spirituality. So it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult for those of us who can see things that other people can't see, because when we try to articulate them here for everyone, I can only articulate what the average population's vibration can understand. One-on-one, I can articulate completely different in more detail if you are the individual. If you are at a higher vibration than the average person on the earth, I can articulate far more information to you, and you can understand it easier. So when I'm talking here live, this goes out to the entire planet. I can only give the information out to the planet that the average people are ready for, whether they're aware of it or not. Some people will absolutely discount what I say and reject what I say because they're not ready. But the average of the human condition at this particular time on this particular planet is ready for how far I push you. I push to that place almost every time I'm on the air. And I do that on smaller settings. And for that reason, we started doing the Wednesday Q&A, because it's a smaller group, 5 or 6 people usually, instead of this going out to the whole world. Just because the whole world is not listening doesn't mean that if there's only 6 or 7 of you in the audience, doesn't mean I can give you the information that I could give you if we were on a Zoom call that wasn't being broadcast to the world, and there was the same 7 people that like are right here now. I can give you guys far more information than I can here now, because this is going out to the whole world. Therefore, the maximum amount of information that I can give about the universe can only reach the maximum level of what this collective is prepared for, or is anywhere near in vibration on average. So some people will absolutely discount it and discredit it and say, absolutely, I'm crazy. Other people will say, listen to this broadcast and say, that's basic and it's for children, because they personally are way above the vibration of how far I can go. They know that. If they were that in that place, they would know that what I'm saying, even though they would say this is basic, they would know that the reason why. Do you see? So Raw had the same problem 40 years ago coming through, because the information that Raw was giving 40 years ago, you can now give far more information. If Raw were being channeled currently, there would be far more information being given to you because of the potentiation of that. Because of the potentiation of the collective consciousness of the earth is 40 years more advanced and exponentially in a better place spiritually by far compared to 40 years ago. Okay. So this is why we have the chat, where you can go in the chat and ask questions and get better answers. And then if you're not comfortable with just openly in a chat, then we do the Wednesday, where you guys can ask questions there, because it's usually 5 or 6 or 7, sometimes 8 people in the group. Sorry, I've been talking too much in the last couple of days, and my vocal cords are limited today. Right? Okay, so Ra's referring to that here, talking about the mind being the magi, or the third eye being the magi, the illumination, and the potentiation being that knowledge which you can understand, which spawned me to explain why that would change per individual. Let's continue.
The potentiator of consciousness is the unconscious. This encompasses a vast realm of potential in the mind. In the body, the matrix may be seen as balanced, working, or even functioning.
You know, Paulie, I don't know. Tag him, get him in here. Paulie said, "Where is Peter Coyle tonight?" I don't know. He might have a gig. It is Friday. Sometimes he's working on Fridays, where he'll be doing, because he does DJ stuff and he plays an instrument. So he's usually, sometimes he's setting up and doing his own gig. Sometimes he's jamming with people. So he might be working tonight. I don't know. I don't know what his schedule is, but that's usually a good question. He usually pops in right about now. It's, it's after midnight now over there, right? It's 6 p.m. So 8 hours ahead of that. It's almost 2 a.m. He'll probably pop in the next half hour or so, because if he had a gig, he'll be off, and he'll be sitting at a bus stop or on his way home, and he'll be able to pop in. You watch, he'll pop in now that we mentioned his name. Say his name 3 times. Peter Coyle, Peter Coyle, Peter Coyle. He'll show up. All right, let's continue.
Note that here the matrix is always active with no means of being inactive. The potentiator of the body complex, then, may be called wisdom, for it is only through judgment that the unceasing activities and proclivities of the body complex may be experienced in useful modes. The matrix of the spirit is what you may call the night of the soul, or primeval darkness. Again, we have that which is not capable of movement or work. The potential power of this extremely receptive matrix is such that the potentiator may be seen as lightning. In your archetypical system called the tarot, this has been refined into the concept complex of the lightning-struck tower. However, the original potentiator was light.
Right. So Anna said, truth there, Leo. I've written half a dozen things that had to be deleted, as I was told that some are not ready to hear something too overwhelming. Correct, right? And there goes Jacqueline's tagging him. Get him in here, Jacqueline. So and so I can only push so high in a setting like this that is public before the universe itself, because of infringement of free will. Before the universe will stop me from saying that. Individually, I can only push so far before the universe will actually stop me. And when we tell people that, they sometimes tend to giggle about it till they see it happen, or it happens to them. When you're trying to tell somebody something and all of a sudden the words will not come out of your mouth, that's the universe, your higher self and the universe stopping you from telling that person that, because it infringes their free will, because it has something to do with either it's just out of their realm completely, more likely it's because it's something that they have set down for themselves to learn organically. And so because of that, you can't tell them. So sometimes someone will ask a question and I'll know the answer to it, but I can't tell them that answer because it's something that they're supposed to learn organically. So if you ever talk to somebody who is a psychic in any way and they say, I'm sorry, I can't give you that information because that's something you need to go through on your own, they're not lying to you. They're not just being mean to you because they don't want to tell you the answer, because they know they can't answer that for you. So some people, some people say it and some people don't. Some people try to hint and get around that. But the more you try to tell somebody something you're not supposed to, eventually, first, it'll stop you from speaking. The universe will stop you from speaking the words. The more you try to persist to beat around the bush to get to it, eventually the thought that you have of that answer will disappear out of your mind. And you won't even know what you were trying to tell them until you stop and then go off from that subject, and then it'll come back into your memory. And that does happen. It's just the way the universe works. So it's funny when it happens, but it's not funny. Funny, not funny, right? Okay, let's continue here.
In its sudden and fiery form, that is, the lightning itself. 78.12 Questioner, would you elucidate with respect to the significator you spoke of? Ra, I am Ra. The original significators may undifferentiatedly be termed the mind, the body, and the spirit. 78.13 Questioner. Then we have, at the beginning of this galactic evolution, an archetypical mind that is the product of the previous octave which this galaxy then uses and acts upon under the first distortion of free will to evolve the total experience of this galaxy. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is quite correct. 78.14 Questioner. But, in doing this, there was at the center of the galaxy, the lack of knowledge or the lack of concept of possibility of extending the first distortion, so as to allow for what we have experienced as polarity. Was there any concept of polarity carried through from the previous octave in the sense of service to others or service to self polarity? Ra, I am Ra. There was polarity in the sense of the mover and the moved. There was no polarity in the sense of service to self and service to others.
Well, see, Penny, that's probably for the best. And let me explain that, right? Penny said, at this point, I'm just saying F it, and I'm trying to enjoy the ride, sick of fighting to ascend. When you're at that point, we will tell you, surrender. You have to surrender. When you get to the point where you're fighting to ascend and you're trying to force it, the universe will not allow you. You cannot defeat the universal mind. You cannot force it to do anything you don't want it, that it doesn't want to do. So if the universal mind, if this matrix knows that you are supposed to be at a certain place and you're supposed to be organically moving and you're trying to force that, it will block you until you get so frustrated that you go like you're doing. You're like, okay, screw it. I'm going to relax and just enjoy the ride for right now. You will find that when you surrender to that, you're going to end up making faster headway by doing that than trying to force it. And all of the frustrations that you have dissolve. And all of a sudden, you're going to be like, wow, okay, so I just sat back and said, screw it for like a month. And then all of a sudden, it might not even take that long. It could take a few days. It could take a week. Then all of a sudden, you're just going to start knowing things. And you're going to go, well, where was that before? You were in your own way trying to force something to happen. And because of that, you were slowing yourself down. You were your own problem. So if you're to that point and you're frustrated, take a little bit of time off and just relax and let the process happen on its own. You're going to find that it will come to you faster by doing that than trying to force it, which is what Anna was talking about when she said, just prior to that, when she said, where was that at? I saw that slowly is more powerful than forcing petals to open when they're not ready. So that's exactly what she was referring to when she said that, because we all do that and we get in a hurry and we're like, why is this not just taking forever, and hurry up. And we're starting to push ourselves and we're like, I can't get anything done and I don't understand. I'm trying as hard as I can. And then you go, screw it. I'm done. I'm not doing it. And then you stop. And a couple of days later, you go, really? Really? It doesn't usually take too long. When you just relax, it usually all of a sudden starts figuring all the stuff that you had that you didn't realize was a download that was scrambling you at that moment will all of a sudden start falling into place. And you'll see that you start picking up pace, and then it starts happening really fast. When you learn to surrender, when you get downloads and you realize you have a big download, don't try to force it and allow it to just happen. I got a download. I don't know what it means. I'm going to leave it alone and just go. Then you'll find that your brain figures it out. Your veiling starts to unveil faster by becoming in tune with nature, becoming in tune with this reality, this matrix, the nature of this beast. By becoming in tune with that, you're going to spiritually ascend faster than you will if you're trying to fight against it and force it to be bent to your will, right? Right. So let me put up here what Penny's saying. She's talking to Penny, and she said, or what Anna's saying. Anna's saying, talking to Penny, and she said, one of the things that I was told to delete this as much a shorter version is sitting in the now. This is very Native American shamanistic, what she's saying here. Sitting in the now is the most powerful thing that you could ever do. Being in the now, your presence is I'm sorry, let me read what she's saying. Being in the now, your actual presence is your present for you. So yeah, that's very shamanistic, Anna. Surrendering to the now, surrendering to the universe instead of trying to force the universe. And where is it? I'm trying to see it and it's not happening. And I'm trying to ascend and it won't let me to ascend. And I don't understand. And I'm frustrated. Surrendering to that and allowing it to happen. Allow yourself to become in touch with nature and in the universe itself. You'll find that being present in the now will actually give you more of insight and more ascension from being present in the now than to be present in the why not and I want and I need and looking into the future and why isn't it here yet. Be focusing on now and how you feel now and where you are now in this place. Like you were saying, Penny, so your instincts are correct. It's just that's one of the hardest things to do is to give up that control, because we're taught here to control everything in this matrix, because the more that they teach you how to control things in this matrix, the more they keep you in it. And that's why they do that, right? Yeah, right. And Cassie says to learn that is truly is the gift and absolutely not easy. But once you do, all systems go. Yeah, and she's absolutely right. That's one of the hardest things to do in your ascension is the surrender to it and not try to force it, because this place is trying to get you to force it, and all that they're programming you with is it's a reverse psychology. They're teaching you to try and force everything and control everything, because they know that the more you try to exert control over the matrix, the less control you have over it. That's the philosophy of Socrates, and you hear people say this. I say it all the time, and other people do it all around the world. The more you know know that you know nothing. But you have to have that realization. So the more you buy into your own crap and you think you know everything, the more you actually don't, but you don't know that because your ego is now taken over and you think that you have all of the knowledge. And can you use that knowledge to get rich in this place? Yeah, but you're not going to ascend yourself, and you're not going to allow anyone else to ascend past you. So the realization of no matter how much I learn, I realize that I can never learn it all. That is the same realization of no matter how hard I press, I have to realize that I'm not going to ever get anything. So the realization of the more I know nothing is the same realization of the less I push, the more I surrender to this process, the faster it's going to happen to me naturally, because it's set up that way. Right? So you have to learn that and surrender, and it's really hard to do because you're not used to doing that in this place at all. You're used to being in control and controlling everything around you, because that's what they teach you, because they're trying to keep you in this matrix, which is about control, which is all about control. That's what the matrix is about. This place, living in the flesh, is about control. It's about power. It's about control. You don't have power unless you control. Do you see? So to have power, you have to have control. To have control is the only way that you get power. It's the only way that you get rich is to have control. Power, control, they all work together. So power, clicks, likes, control. That all is physical. Spiritual is the opposite. Spiritual is surrender. Spiritual is going with the flow. Spiritual is allowing things to happen in its own course. Those are all passive. Do you see? So you have to become more passive. And the only way that you can ascend spiritually is to be passive about that, being present in the now and allowing it to take its natural course. And you'll see that it goes really fast when you allow it to take its natural course, far faster than it does when you're pushing. Far faster. So just relax and know that you're on the right path and you're in the right place. Takes practice, Cassie says. Let's put this up on the screen. Takes practice. But when you finally say, fuck it, I'll put the word out there, right? She was putting italics. When you finally say, fuck it, I'm not trying anymore, then that's when the magic happens. Truly. Absolutely, 100%. Right? Who's Ken? Where did that word come in? Cassie said, who's Ken? I don't know where that word came in. Oh, Rick said Ken Oath. Yeah, I think Rick was trying to say something else, and Ken came in. I don't know what Rick's trying to say. Was that a butt dial? Rick said Ken Oath, O-A-T-H, Ken Oath. Yeah, he meant something by that. I don't know what that means. Is that an Australian saying, or did he type the wrong thing? Is that a typo? He'll answer. Okay, let's continue here. We could play here. If I can get it to hit play. There we go.
78.15 questioner. Then the first experiences, as you say, were in monochrome. Now, was the concept of the 7 densities of vibration with the evolutionary process taking place in the discrete densities, was that carried through from the previous octave? Ra, I am Ra. To the limits of our knowledge, which are narrow, the ways of the octave are without time, that is, there are 7 densities in each creation infinitely. 78.16 Questioner, I am assuming that the central suns of our galaxy, in starting the evolutionary process in this galaxy.
See, now that was important. There are 7 densities in every creation. This is why you hear me talking about density 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Halfway through the 6th, halfway through the 6th density is where your soul is anchored. Your soul is actually bigger than that, but we don't want to push you past that concept right now, because most people are just now realizing that they have a soul. And then on top of that, or a spirit, then on top of that, it's really scary for them to think that it's halfway through the 6th. Okay. The first octave is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next octave grouping of realities is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, quite possibly another 7. So it would be 14. Okay. Because 8 through, so 7, and then, so that's 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 7 more if it continues. 7 and 7. Okay. And 7 and 7 is 28, right? So, or 14 and 14 is 28. So 7 and 7 is 14, and then 14 and 14 is 28. So, or what's 14 and 7 is 21. Is that right? Am I counting that right? 7. Yeah. 3 and 1. Yeah. 21. So if it continues to go like that, if it doesn't, and then at the 13th level, or after the 13th level, the 14th level would be returning to source. Some people say that there's a lot more levels, like the Asian ideology is that there's 33 levels or more to the ascension process. I don't believe that there's that many, but you could see those sub logos having a lot more, like an onion, where just the 3rd dimension is a lot of layers before you get to being in 4D. Right. But you need to know that everything goes in an increment of 7. Why? We have 7 chakras. Okay. We have 7 chakras. Okay, let's continue here.
Provided for, in their plans, the refinement of consciousness through the densities just as we experience it here. However, they did not conceive of the polarization of consciousness with respect to service to self and service to others. Is this correct, then?
Right. I like, before we answer that, I like what Anna said here, right? Talking to Polly Sullivan, because it was something that Polly said. Polly Sullivan, growth is painful, but there is reward. Honestly, it shows that it shows you the strength that you have. Breathe, let it come to the surface, look at it, feel the emotion, acknowledge that it is part of your past, and it is not who you are. Give it to the Mother Gaia, say thank you, but you are no longer need that memory or emotion. See, that's good for almost everything when you look at surrendering to anything, including your own past, things that happened to you in the past, whatever traumas that you have, all of that. You should forgive yourself, forgive the person that was when you were younger, forgive the same thing if somebody did something to you. You can forgive those people. You know, Jesus said that on the cross while he was dying. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You have to learn that forgiveness. You have to learn that surrender to that. You've survived whatever it is that's going on in your life. You survived this life itself. You're a part of the ascension. So therefore, the things that have happened to you have made you who you are and allowed you to be who you are. And you have to surrender to that. And allow that to play out. I've survived that. It's over. It's done with. I don't need to carry that baggage. I don't need to keep looking at that. I don't need to keep living in that moment. I need to move past that moment. And how do I move past that moment? Exactly by what Anna was talking about right there. Okay. In everything, no matter what it is. I was an alcoholic, and people always say, I am an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm no longer an alcoholic because I quit drinking alcohol. So do I have the symptoms? Yeah. If I started drinking alcohol, would I probably fall back into that routine? Yes, I'm predisposed to that, but that doesn't mean that I will, but if you tell yourself that I am an alcoholic, right? If you keep telling yourself you're an alcoholic, there's a very good possibility you're going to recess and become an alcoholic again because you're telling yourself you're an alcoholic. And this is what Anna's referring to, that by giving that up, and if Jacqueline were still here, she'd be talking about that the same way. Jacqueline has longer time away from drugs and alcohol than I do. And she would be telling you the same thing. Part of your recovery is to stop calling yourself an addict. You're not an addict anymore. You're a recovering addict. You used to be an addict and you're no longer an addict. Do you still have that addictive personality? Well, yes, you do. That's what made you an addict. So you have to then say to yourself, I no longer am going to acknowledge that part. I'm not going to have the addictive personality. That's why I don't have that anymore. That's why I'm no longer an addict. I have taken those things out of my life that have created that. And what did I change? I changed me. I didn't change. Remember when it says, well, I changed my life. No, you didn't. You changed you. You changed you. You made the decision. I'm no longer going to be an alcoholic. I'm no longer drinking. I'm no longer going to be a drug addict. I'm no longer going to smoke cigarettes, whatever it is that you're quitting. So the same thing happens, and you have to realize that psychologically the same thing is going on with, I was a victim of something that happened to me. I was hurt by someone. I was treated meanly by someone, or I was beaten by someone, or any trauma that you have in your life. It is the same as an addiction to a drug, that as long as you call yourself that thing, I am a victim, then you're staying in that victimhood. You have to become your own power and change that about you. I am not a victim. I am a survivor. That is done. That is no longer a part of me. It is only there in memory, and for me to learn from it, to not allow it to happen again. Do you see? So the same thing goes in spirituality as well. And you have to realize that it is in every facet. It is the way that this matrix works in every facet of what you're doing to heal yourself no matter what, or to move forward, to make progress and move forward. So that means you have to be present in the now, getting all the way back to the beginning of what we were talking about. You have to be present in the now. So you have to not live in the past. And if I am an alcoholic, I am a drug addict, I was raped, I was molested, I was beaten, I burned myself, I am a burned victim. People were prejudiced against me because of my race, color, creed. If you put yourself in that position of a victim, you're living there. That's the now you're living in. You're living in that now. You're not living in this now. But I want to be something more in the future. Now you're not living in the now again. You're living in the future. I don't want to be what I am now, but what you are now is the past. You're not living in the now. So you have to surrender to that, to live in the now, so that you can become who it is that you already are. Same thing happens in a spiritual sense. So in every sense, energy, frequency, vibration, in every sense, you have to get those negative ideas out of your brain to be able to live in the now, to be able to become that which your potentiation, getting back on track with Ra, that which is the potentiator for you to be here in the now as whatever it is that you're trying to be for yourself. You just have to start being it. Present in the now. So if I want to be awake and pierce the veil, how do I do that? You become that now. I am piercing the veil. I am unveiled. I am in the now, and I see that. How? I surrender to the universe, put out to the universe, this is what I'm becoming. This is what I am now in the present. See yourself in that. When you're in business and you want to get a promotion, you're taught, if you have any good mentor, see yourself in the position, start walking that way, talking that way, thinking that way, dressing that way. Manifest it. Same thing. If you want to be awake and you want to be unveiled, start walking that way, thinking that way, talking that way, become unveiled, live in the present and allow it. If you keep saying, I want to do, I want to be, I'm in the future at some later date. In your mind, that's what you're saying to the universe. There, in a place that I can't be at, that I'm not, is what I want. No, that's not. Now is what I want. So if you want to be unveiled now, start thinking in the now. Don't start thinking in the future. Someday I'm chasing it. You're never going to catch it because you're constantly chasing it. He who gropes for it will not grasp it. Do you see? That comes from Lao Tzu. All right, let's continue.
Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 78.17 Questioner, why do the densities have the qualities that they have? You have named the densities with respect to their qualities, this density being that of the next, the fourth density being that of love, etc. Can you tell me why these qualities exist in that form? Is it possible to answer this question at all? Ra,
Right, Paulie said, I know it rationally. However, it still bothers my soul, and I'm always working hard on my shadow stuff, like the book, the body keeps the score. Well, see, that's part of the problem, even with Jung's shadow work, is that in their wisdom, it is wisdom from the past. You have to realize that in their wisdom, they served a purpose at the time that those were written. The concept of Carl Jung is more than 100 years old. You have to realize that. Okay, so for people in the time that Jung wrote that material, it was very vital. But it's not as accurate today as it was then, because people have exponentially moved into another place now than then. It's a great guideline if you're just learning the concept of those things. However, you have to allow yourself to be the evolution past those things. Do you see? So the surrender becomes the hardest part. So working, you're saying, I mean, look at the words that you're using, right? I know that it rationally, right? However, it is still bothering my soul, and I'm always working, future tense, working hard on shadow stuff. Okay, so I would have to work with you individually, because you're still seeing things from a future perspective of where you are instead of a now, right? So what are you working on? See, so you either accept those things that are your shadow and the concepts of that, whatever that is that's going on with you, or you're working on it. So you're saying that you're working on it. That means you're still doing it. So you're not concluding it. Do you see? So even in your words of what you're saying here is perpetuating the non-conclusion by saying, I'm always working on it. So in your mind, you're working on it. It's like when someone says, I'm fighting cancer. Well, then what you're telling your body is that I perpetually have cancer and I'm fighting it. If you don't want to have cancer anymore, then you're not fighting cancer. I don't have cancer. I'm not accepting the concept of cancer. I'm curing myself. I am cured of cancer. Those are the thought processes that you should have. What do I need to do to cure cancer? I want it to go away, so I need to look into what will stop it, and my body will do that. My body is doing that. I am free of cancer. Do you see? If you tell yourself, I'm working on it, I'm fighting on it, I'm studying it, you're not doing it, because you're telling yourself that you're still in the future. I'm working. That means you're constantly working on shadow work, working. Not, I have solved my shadow problems. I have accepted and become objective with what is happening, what my faults are, whatever that is. Do you see? So the programming is not your fault. I don't want you thinking that I'm saying it's your fault. The programming that we get in this place, from this place, and from evil people in this place, is keeping us perpetually running on a treadmill like a hamster on a hamster wheel. They're not teaching us how to get off that hamster wheel. They're teaching us to stay on the hamster wheel and run in place, thinking and wearing ourselves out, thinking we're getting somewhere. Do you see? Now, the hamster does it because they're trying to get exercise. The hamster doesn't think it's running down the road. We do. We think we're running down the road because they project that in front of our faces, and we're running, and we're thinking we're getting somewhere. And it's not until we get tired that we go, I don't even understand why I'm doing this. Do you see? So it's not your fault. It's the programming in this place. You have to deprogram even the concepts of the words. Cassie was mentioning that before. I put it up on the screen. Words are spells. That's why they're called spelling. That's why it's called spelling. So when you're using these words, I'm working on my shadow, and it's still not getting me anywhere. Well, you're telling yourself that. That entire concept that I just said is telling me I'm not done with my shadow. I am not finished, and then it's not getting me anywhere. I'm working, and I'm not getting done. Well, wait, that you just told yourself that. You told yourself you're not getting done because you're still working on it. That is the conceptual ideology that you're putting out to yourself in the universe. So you have to change your thinking completely and word things in a more positive affirmation. And that was the secret when they talked about the secret back in the 90s, was literally you have to come up with a better way of saying that. Like when you say, I don't have the money to buy that. You're telling yourself you don't have money. You're putting out to the universe that you don't have, right? It's not that you don't have the money for it. It's that you don't want to spend the money on that, because you have the money and you can find the money for it. I don't want to spend the money on that. So there's a difference, right? Well, I don't have the money because I'm poor. Well, you don't have the money because wherever you live, you're spending too much money on other things, or you have a job that you need to trade in. If you don't have enough money to live your life the way you want to live your life, the amount of money you have coming in, that means the job you have isn't the current job that you have for your idea of what you want to do with your life. So the first thing you need to change is the job. So how do I do that? What do I need to do to better you have to find what the common denominator is. You can tell Cassie and I are both life coaches, not just spiritual life coaches. Okay. And that's why Cassie was wording that the way she was. And that's why I'm wording this, because we life coach people as well. So you have to find the common denominator. I don't have enough money in my life to do the things that I want to do. So that means that I don't have the right job. So what do I need? Do I need an education now to get a better job, or do I just need to get a better job? Do I already have the education that I need for the job that I could get for a better job to make more money, to be more conducive with what I need for my lifestyle? No, then let's look at what we need to do to fix that. That's life coaching. Same thing in the spiritual sense. If you're trying to do shadow work, you have to realize you're the common denominator. Wherever you go, there you are. Do you see? Right? So you have to, right? And what is Cassie saying? You are grasping it. Yeah, because you are, right? So I will grasp it. Yeah, and you are grasping it, right? I am grasping it, not will, because the word will is still futuristic. That's what Cassie's correcting you. Are in capital letters. Okay, I am grasping it, right? You are grasping it. If you say I will, that means future still. That's still a future tense. Those are programmed words in the English language in a way that programs us to defeat ourselves, to stay here. And that's being done to us by the 1% that believe they own this earth. They're telling us that the proper grammar is this sentence structure. And what they're doing in that sentence structure is they're keeping you down by you not knowing that you're reinstilling negative connotations and negative thought processes and programming yourself to not succeed. Do you see? Right? So, right? Yeah, Slime Diver said, hi, Santa. Ho, 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 welcome. Welcome, right? So I am Santa. I am Santa Claus. Let me look over my glasses at you, right? And do the Santa Claus. So you have to realize that you have to deprogram yourself. And that was what they were selling to the world back in the 1990s. If you're too young to know that, you could look it up, The Secret. And the secret was deprogramming all the negative thought processes and word salads that they put into our minds all across the planet in this Western philosophical maritime law that is ruling this earth, and move into a more positive affirmation, wording and thought processes. Replace it with positiveness towards yourself. Reprogram your spelling and your word choices. And it's really hard to do. That's why I don't say inner stand, because I don't stand under anyone. That's a maritime law word that says, do you stand under me? Do you submit to my will? I don't stand under anyone. So that's why you hear these people across the world now, just since 2017, when we were in a think tank and started putting it out to the world and everybody else started picking it up. Do you understand? Do you realize the concept? Those are the concepts, and you're going to see that catching on around the world, and it already is since 2017, and it is now almost 10 years later. It is becoming more commonplace to hear people say understand than understand, because those people who have chosen a spiritual path or a path of I'm getting the word righteousness in your own self and your own strength and your own, even if you're not spiritual, even if you're not religious in any way, but you want to be more affirmative towards yourself and more prosperous towards yourself, you have to take on these thought processes to then not stifle yourself and defeat yourself in everything that you do. Do you see? So it's not your fault that you are said that, because we are programmed to think that way and talk that way and demean ourselves, because that's what they're doing to us when we're going through their schooling system, which is a brainwashing programming system. And then when you watch television and the internet, it's programming you. That's why they're called programs on television, because they're programming your mind. Do you see? That's what they're doing. So you have to learn how to defeat that process by being aware. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. To become aware that when small things that you say in your everyday thinking in life, you don't realize that you're defeating yourself. And doing shadow work and the idea of that is a great concept, and we all need to do that. But you have to become objective with everything that you say, not subjective. And they have you being a subject. That's why the kings of the world call their people their subjects, because you're subject to their rule. You're subject to their thinking, to their laws, right? So you have to, there's certain things you have to do here right now. We all have to have money to pay for things because they have subjected us to that and everybody bought into it. And so because everybody's bought into it, you have to have it, unless you say, I don't want to live by their leave. I don't want to live by that. And then you live off the grid. Then you have to learn what it takes to be able to cultivate and plant your own foodstuffs, have your own livestock, to have your own things that you need so that you can live off of the land. And then you have to have other things that you have to learn. Where am I going to have water? Do I have a water source? Energy source? Do I create? How am I going to create my own energy? You have that learning curve, but you can do it. Everybody can do it and live without needing this society so much. Right? And they don't like it when you do that. They don't want you doing that. So they're trying to make everybody live in apartments around the world, no yards, because they don't want you having livestock. They don't want you having your own food that you're growing. Why? Because they want all your money to be under their control, so that you have to go to their stores and buy their fuel from them, because all that money trickles up to the 1% who own all of that. Till the people wake up enough to be able to make conceptual changes to the societal structures that we have on this earth, which is starting to happen. Once that starts to happen, it'll continue to snowball, and eventually this entire way of life is going to go away, and we're going to have a better way of life that is going to be put in its place. Okay. So we all do that, right? And Cassie's saying it's okay, right? It's okay that we all do that until we learn differently. And that's the absolute truth. It's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's their fault of this place and the evil people who think they own you and own this, for programming that into you. We spend the second half of our lives deprogramming and fixing the shit they did to us in the first half. So the first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. So think about whenever you find yourself saying something, learn the concept of the now and positive affirmation of the now when you're trying to manifest something, instead of saying, I will this, I do that, I'm going to. Those words are saying you're not there. And that's telling you that you're not there. So you're putting out to the universe, I'm never reaching that. He who grasps for something, or he who gropes for something, will not grasp it, because you're groping at it and it's in front of you and you can't get to it. Do you see? He who has it, if you manifest having it, you're going to have it. If you manifest grabbing at it, you'll grab it. It's like in combat, when they teach you in hand-to-hand combat in martial arts, that if you go to hit something, the first thing they teach you is that you don't try to hit it where it is. Because if you try to hit it where it is, you're going to slow down and the impact is going to be there. So when you look at something and you want to hit this, you actually want to target something way over here, so that your impact takes this to there. And that's how you hit harder and punch harder. And they teach you that. It's the same thing when you're in the opposite, but the same concept when you're trying to spiritually grow. You have to internalize more and you have to surrender to this place, because the physical is the fight. The physical is the forcing. The physical is the reaching, but it's never achievable, because it's defeating yourself, because you're telling yourself, I'm going to hit you, not I am hitting you. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to read that. I'm this. And it's not that I have a great job. I make good money. I am that part. I'm projecting myself and manifesting myself as the promotion that I want. How do those people dress? How do they walk? How do they talk? What do they know? All of those things, you become those things, and then someone's going to offer you that job because they're going to see that you have that. And if they don't, you're going to be able to go to another company and they're going to see that you have the skills and they're going to offer you the job. But if you say, I'm going to learn to be a manager, that means that you're not seeing yourself as a manager. Same thing when in the spiritual sense and waking up. Concepts work exactly the same way. Okay. So it's not your fault. We all go through it, and we're constantly. I have the same problem. I'm unveiled, and I have the same problem. Okay, this place locks you in and pulls you to there. So you're constantly correcting in your mind or saying things out loud. You're constantly correcting that, and you have to constantly do that until eventually those words are out of your vocabulary because you got all that negativity out of your mind, and now you're reprogramming your mind with positivity in the now instead of living in the past. Do you see? So it's not your fault. It's just it's really hard. It's really hard to do. But once you start doing it, it becomes easier. Okay. All right, let's continue here. Sorry, guys, that we went off on that tangent, but that's actually important for everybody in the world to know. That is the secret to the world. And all of us go through it. Anyone who tells you they don't go through that, they're lying to you, because everybody goes through it. And even the people who are awake go through it daily, because you get pulled into this matrix. The second you're not paying attention, it grabs you and pulls you down and reprograms you to start thinking in the matrix again. It's designed to do that. That's just it's what is strengthening that muscle within you to be that thing, to become that immortal spirit that has that will to survive. You have to survive this place and graduate from this place for you to become that thing, which is energy, not physicality.
I am Ra. It is possible. 78.18 Questioner, would you please answer that? Ra, I am Ra. The nature of the vibratory range peculiar to each quantum of the octave is such that the characteristics of it may be described with the same certainty with which you perceive a color with your optical apparatus if it is functioning properly. 78.19 Questioner, so the original, the first evolution then was planned by the logo.
Right, and Paulie said, I like the word trying because like saying, that means that you're doing it, right? So she said, I like the word trying. Trying gives more room for failure, right? Hence the word just do it, right? So doing something as opposed to trying it, because trying gives room for failure. Doing is clarification, specific, that you are, that you have become, that you are.
But the first distortion was not extended to the product. At some point this first distortion was extended and the first service to self polarity emerged. Is this correct, and if so, could you tell me the history of this process and emergence? Ra, I am Ra. As Pro-Am, let me state that the logoi always conceived of themselves as offering free will to the sub-logoi in their care. The sub-logoi had freedom to experience and experiment with consciousness, the experiences of the body.
Right, so that that at least, but see, but the I am, that's why God said that. That's why when Moses said, "Who do I tell them sent me?" God said, "I am." Right, so the concept of a word or a name, I am sent you. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the everything and nothing. So that's the same thing. You either are or you're not. Right, so that's why when people say, like I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church, so I have a Sir title, and I tell people being a knight is not something that you do. It's something that you are. It's a way of life. You either are or you're not, right? You either live that life or you don't. So some people get the name because it's the title, and that's all they really want is to have that title. But the majority of people that are knighted are knights. In fact, before I was knighted, they told me that you're going to make a perfect knight because you already are one. You just don't have the Sir title. Okay? So I was already living the life, and then I just had to learn what I needed to learn to have the honor of taking a knee and being knighted. Right? And once I was knighted, I had the Sir title, but they were like, you were already doing it. You're already a knight. You just didn't have the title. So same thing. You're, as a healer, some people are natural healers, and then they go to get a healing attunement like Reiki or something, and the Reiki master will be like, you're already doing it. You just don't have the title, so let's get you the title. Let's go through the process to get you the title, and then you'll be better at it because you'll be more learned, right? And you'll have a title to do that. So just like when knowing that and having that title changes a person because they become it and they live it. So until they get that, they sometimes need that title, like in the movie The Kingdom of Heaven, which was a true story. when Balian was trying to defend against the Saracens, against Salah-ad-Din, Jerusalem, when all the Templar Knights were either killed or run off or take prisoner, and they were defending the city. The bishop said, "We have to escape. We have to repent. We have to do whatever we need to do, convert, and then repent later." And he said, "We have no knights. We don't have any knights to fight." So Balian turned around and started yelling to everybody that was there, all the men at arms, "All you men at arms that are capable of bearing them, kneel, kneel." And they took a knee, and he went through and knighted them all right then. And then he said, "Rise a knight." And the bishop looked at him and said, "Is making a man a knight make him a better fighter?" And he looked at the bishop, and he looked around at the men, and he looked back at the bishop, and he said, "Yes." Right? Because they were already knights. They just didn't have the title. They were willing to stand and fight. But then once he knighted them, that concept to them, they became that. So that ritual was the way of letting them come into their own. Nothing changed about them except for they got a title now. But they were still the same man that they were, that was willing to fight to the death to defend Jerusalem at that moment. But now he, literally making them a knight, that concept, yes, it's going to make them fight better because now they believe it and they will become it. So it was they were living in the now. It was present in the now. Before that, it was, I want to be a knight. I'm not yet a knight. We don't have any knights. Now we have knights. You are knights. Fight like knights. Stand and fight like knights. And it made them better fighters because they now believed in the concept of themselves and became a knight and lived it. And they survived the day because of it. Same thing in spirituality. In once you have to become it. Become what you wish for. Become what you want. And be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Let's continue.
And the illumination of the Spirit. That having been said, we shall speak to the point of your query. The first logos to instill what you now see as free will, in the full sense, in its sub-logoi came to this creation due to contemplation in depth of the concepts or possibilities of conceptualizations of what we have called the significators. The logos posited the possibility of the mind, the body, and the spirit as being complex. In order for the significator to be what it is not, it then must be granted the free will of the creator. This set in motion a quite lengthy, in your terms, series of logoi improving or distilling this seed thought. The key was the significator becoming a complex. 78.20 Questioner. Then our particular logos, when it created its own particular creation, was at some point far down the evolutionary spiral of the experiment with the significator becoming what it was not, or in effect, creating the polarity that we strive for in third density, and, therefore was, I am assuming, primarily concerned in the design of the archetypes, in designing them in such a way so as they would create the acceleration of this polarization. Is this in any way correct? Ra, I am Ra. We would only comment briefly. It is generally correct. You may fruitfully view each logos in its design as the creator experiencing itself. The seed concept of the significator being a complex introduces two things. Firstly, the creator against creator in one sub-logos in what you may call dynamic tension. Secondly, the concept of free will, once having been made fuller by its extension into the sub-logoi known as mind/body/spirit complexes, creates and recreates and continues to create as a function of its very nature. 78.21 Questioner.
All right, hold on. I'm going to stop right there for a second. Now I got too much open here on my screen on my phone, trying to record where we are right there. So yeah, I think we're going to stop right there. Before we go, I'm going to play my commercial for my book, right? Let's do that. Let's play a commercial for my book, which I didn't do in the beginning. So let's do that right now, right quick. And then we'll come to a conclusion here for this week.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the old ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the Old Ways. On sale worldwide online now.
Okay, so we'll pick it up there next week, right? I'll back up probably 2 questions or so. I marked it as 20, so question 20, but I think I'll go back to the question before that. But Paulie, if you're not already in the group group chat, I think we added you to the group chat. You should pop in there because then you can have more of these conversations and ask more questions and have more of the discussion, and quite possibly go on to the Wednesday on the Zoom on Wednesday and sit in there. We usually go a long time in there. The last couple of weeks, we've been going like 4 or 5 hours of conversation. It just evolves and everybody has a good time, but you don't have to be there for that, all of that. Yeah, if you're not already in the group, and those of you around the world listening to this podcast, like I said, contact myself or Cassie or Jacqueline Taylor, Cassie Meckler, Jacqueline Taylor, or myself. I don't know who else is in the group right now, but it's admin, Peter Coyle, if he's around. There's a bunch of us that are administrators in that group. Get a hold of us, and then we can get you in that group on Messenger to have conversations. Otherwise, get a hold of us individually, and we can work with you if you resonate with us. And if you don't, and you move on to somebody else, we don't get annoyed with that. We always suggest that everybody move to find the mentor or the guide that will guide you, that it is more resonant with you, whoever that person is. And you'll figure out whether or not they're a good person or not, because by trial and error, you'll either get duped or you won't. Figure that out. And we're here to help people around the world to ascend, to come into their own, to be able to also then turn and help the rest of the people of the world. Because the truth is, if you want, hashtag be the change. That saying came from Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change you wish to see in the world. So to change the world, you change yourself. And by changing yourself, that changes people around you, because it changes you, and your vibration changes them. And thereby, then they'll either follow your lead or they'll start doing their own thing, but it'll change them for the good. If you change yourself because you're in service to others, then you're going to change them. And that's going to make a difference. And everybody that is around you that ever meets you and talks to you is going to feel slightly uplifted by your vibration, because when you change yourself, you raise your vibration, which raises the vibration a little bit. That's the pebble dropping in the pond, or a one raindrop in the ocean that affects the entire ocean in some way. And if enough people are changing themselves, then the ocean changes itself. Do you see? So if you fix yourself and everybody else fixes their self, then the whole self gets fixed, right? So it starts with you. You have to take care of yourself, fix yourself, upgrade yourself. And when you do that, that's going to change people around you, or they're going to polarize away from you. They're either going to say you're crazy and they hate you and stop learning that and get away from you and I don't want to have anything to do with you. Or you're going to say, I'm outgrowing these people. I can't have them in my life anymore because they're dragging me down, and they won't change. You have to allow them to be where they are in their development as well, and not think that you have to save the entire planet, because you're not here to do that, right? You're here to save yourself, and by doing so, assist everyone else to do the same by your example, by your leadership, by your vibration, by you being a good person. Whatever you find is your place to where you fit in society. You can be in the middle of all this chaos and still be a beacon for those people that are looking for someone that is not chaos. And you don't have to do anything and lead them. All you have to do is be you, and they'll find that and they'll see that. And then they'll see that you're not the leader, but they may see that someone else is willing to, or they may find someone else's light and then say, how do I become that? Right? Eventually they're going to want to do that. So you pay it forward because I paid it forward, because someone else paid it forward to me and someone else paid it forward to them. And that's how it works. So I get the knowledge. I tell you that, you get the knowledge, you tell someone else that, they get the knowledge, they tell someone else that, and it just exponentially moves out until eventually the entire planet is changed. And that's how you change the entire planet. Okay. All right, guys. I love you guys. Have a great weekend, depending on where you are in the world, right? This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. I'll see you guys next week if you only listen to the podcast. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the chat if you're in there, or I'll see you guys on the Zoom on Wednesday, or you guys can work with me individually if you send me a message, and I'll help you to send or find the tools that you need to do so. Have a great night. Love you guys.